Where the hell? Oh, that's right. Finally, we get to talk about the homebrew creations.
Something in general? You have not. Okay, I will do.
Oh. The hell? Why is my phone not doing this? Okay, there it is. Alright. At this point, let me go ahead and... That's right, I need some good music in the background. Let me find... D&D chill music. You know, let me just put it over here. Hey.
What you streaming?
Well, right now we're actually, let me fix this well. Right now we're waiting for the timer to finish up, but today is going to be about homebrew creations in D&D and like how to... There we go. And how to kind of go about it. Oh.
Just stuck in.
And there's Rogue.
Hello, all.
Yes. I wonder where Maniacal is, because I know he really wants to... He's also...
Where
like,
has that man been?
So we're doing so we're into doing homebrew worlds now.
Kind of. So right now it's less of just like homebrew worlds and more like homebrew creation in general. So if you know, this is I guess
because I kind of had an idea. You know, Pokemon World, everybody's a single Pokemon. You as the DM are a Pokemon trainer, and basically we have to fight whoever you pit us against.
That's kind of funny, actually. I know definitely I would probably want to go over like how to kind of if you take a look on D&D Beyond, I guess the different things that people do is creating spells, monsters, magic items, backgrounds, feats, races, and subclasses. There are people who also create whole classes. Like I do have stuff in my repertoire for this. So today, you know, still waiting about 6 minutes until we officially talk about it. But I'm gonna showcase like how D&D Beyond does it, and how doing that would make it recognized on D&D Beyond, so you can actually import it into your campaigns. But also about like how other websites can also do some pretty good homebrew creations. So if you wanted to do something digital but without the D&D Beyond character sheet, then you could also do those. Because that's I guess is the D&D Beyond's biggest detriment. If it's not uploaded as a official homebrew that's on their site, then it's not something that can actually be utilized in your campaign on the character sheet unless you like just write it in as so. So we got you lovely peoples.
My mom gave me like $150 to like use, but I don't know what to use it on.
I have an perfect example for this. I had a budget at work for $150. You should buy $107, by the way. Will get you 360 nuggets.
I see.
So what I'm hearing is, with 150 as the budget, you could go for 400, maybe even 500.
I'll have to see.
It's like, sorry, mother, I no longer require dinner. For me, it is but a single nugget every hour.
Yep.
Oh, that's right. I need D&D show music. Let me do... Oh, here we go.
What the fuck?
There's one there. Nintendo lo-fi beats to say too. Pretty sure I can't use those. Loop.
Pretty sure that's copyrighted unless they say,
No, it's copyrighted.
Do you need help?
I always just look up for, what
If
is
it's lo-fi Nintendo stuff, I don't think it is.
copyright free.
Oh, here
no,
you go.
you can find copyright free,
There you go. Royalty free right here.
lo-fi. Yeah.
I'm trying to see just in case if there's... Oh, that's funny. Steampunk mix. It's also on royalty free background music. LA Sun. Oh, wait, 2 hours synthwave.
Ooh.
All right. Sorry, guys. We're going Night Runner style today for our homebrew creation, because homebrew is really where people can like do a lot of crazy stuff. It's gonna be nuts. Like, oh man. Oh, let me also change this up.
Bro, this feels very much like Terminator 1 style.
Right.
It's amazing.
I think. Hold on. Let me hide this for now so I can quickly pull this up. There it is. All right. Thank you.
Okay, we can no longer pay attention to the theme. So if somebody wants in, they'll let Xeno know.
Yeah. This is gonna be fun. So yeah, like here are my own homebrew creations that are like published and not published. Anime and D&D was like a project that I kind of started but gave up on. Omega the Eternal Hunt. What was this one I did? Let me see. Oh, I remember this
Was
one.
that your DM thing?
No, not necessarily. There was a have you guys ever heard of Create Your Own Adventures or CYOAs? Yeah. There was one that was along the lines of like creating a dungeon keeper. Like this is like the final, like the strongest dungeon in the entire world. So who is the BBEG of this dungeon? And so me and my friends, when we were doing this, we all kind of came up with this idea of like there was a circle of dungeon keepers. That it was like these were the 10 most powerful dungeons in the world. So these were the 10 creatures that all excelled in their own ways. And Omega's dungeon wasn't exactly like a dungeon walls and stuff. It was actually like a ruined city. So he was determined as the Eternal Hunt because when you entered his playing grounds, you would be on the hunt for. He would be on the hunt for you. Oh, that's right. All right. Always have the black hole gun. No, black hole gun. Won't you come? Oh no. So, we have just passed up the timer. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to another nerdy talk with XenoLich, where after doing a poll on Twitter, the agreed upon topic is going to be homebrew creations, or better yet, homebrew creation 101. But before we get started on what I guess a deep dive into the topic, let me go ahead and introduce our people who are here at the moment. We have my good friend Sent. Go ahead and say hi.
Hey, what's going on?
We have Rogue, who you would all know from the Saturday session.
Hello.
My partner Skittles, who you would all know from the Saturday session as well.
Yeah.
And lastly, we have Hive, who you would all know from the Tuesday session.
Hello.
And so, I guess, just getting on into it, homebrew creation 101. There's a lot of how do I put this, variations to this topic based off how you want to go about this. But when in doubt, homebrew is just things that are not Wizards of the Coast official stuff, or things that are just generally strangers to the fantasy realm overall. Like, for example, while not homebrew, the antimatter rifle is very out of place in D&D without the proper setting for it. And so it kind of leads you to the whole, if there's an antimatter rifle, what about an antimatter pistol or an antimatter bazooka or shotgun or whatever? And so from there, it's kind of up to the DM or the players who are gonna homebrew something. There's a lot of, I wish Wizards of the Coast did this. Well, they're never gonna do it, so I'll just make it myself. What's the Thanos meme? Fine, I'll do it myself. And, kind of going along with that, any of you who had seen our sessions when we were in the homebrew world would have noticed, like, the Devil Fruits are homebrew items, the Infinity Stones are homebrew items, things that are also in direct reference to their counterparts in the entertainment industry. It's because, a lot of people have a lot of enjoyment from things outside of fantasy, and so they want to pull some of that to them. And while homebrew is a wonderful creation, it's also a bit of a nightmare with how it is to balance said items. For example, there's the infamous, "Hey DM, look, I found a homebrew class that's totally balanced." The DM checks the homebrew class and sees, "Why are you immune to all immune to all damage types from level 1? It's balanced, I swear." And yeah. But I guess let's just get this ball rolling by, what is something that you guys would have either had as a homebrew item or have wanted as a homebrew item?
Fucking Muppet Born was amazing homebrew class. I still look for somebody who'd be willing to let me play.
A Muppet Born? Like, wait, is this a race or a class?
Oh, hold on, I will put it into the texty thingy.
Okay.
I mean, don't be silent on my behalf.
No, that's fine. I'm trying to also see what about the rest of you? Any homebrew items or creations that you guys have wanted to see in your games?
Well, I mean, I made a homebrew spell for something very specific once a long time ago.
Tell us about it.
And if anybody's ever watched Bleach and watched like the Aizen fight and what Urahara did to Aizen, that's basically like the spell I made. I basically copied what is it called? What's the fucking Kaido called? I think it's called like Kyuju Roke, like Kakufu Metsu or whatever.
Okay.
But it's basically a like sealing spell that it's super strong because at the time he made it specifically for Aizen, and I made this spell like specifically for a certain character. And they had to find the spell too. It was a scroll. They had to find the spell, which is the two of them died actually trying to find it.
Oh no.
This is a game I was DMing, and yeah, they ended up using it. Well, actually, they needed someone to use it that could actually like use it properly. And the spell was so strong that like you lost levels using it because it needed those levels to seal the person. This is like very like end of like this is super end game stuff.
Right. Like this would be
Yeah.
like the homebrew thing. Like, oh, we need this spell in order to beat the boss, but in order to get this spell, we need to collect the ingredients from this part of the world, type of thing.
Yeah. Even then, they're still like you seal them, but they're still not dead. They just can't do anything.
Alright,
But
so,
yeah,
so it is under that.
I forgot what I named it. I'm sure I have it like in a note somewhere. But
Well, here.
yeah.
So, going off of that alone, then I've always found that D&D, there are a lot of like, so if we go to the category control, there are like 9 pages of this stuff, but if we actually filter it by spell level, you know, control is a very vague word because there's also like control flames and stuff. So there's never really a lot of like stopping, like, or just binding someone like the way there are sealing spells and stuff. Or I guess like what was it? No, that would be it. Just spells that seal away stuff. So like I think the closest we get to that is like a 3rd level spell that I'm gonna getting to, which is Magic Circle. Hold on, I also want to see. Zone of Truth is kind of along those lines, where you're like sealing off the ability for them to tell a lie. But even then, Earthbind would be another interesting one, but that's more of like a physical thing, not like the actual like I'm gonna seal your power away or I'm gonna put you away in the jar. Magic Circle is the closest idea I can get to that, which is a pretty low level spell, but it's pretty much what you imagine. It's a circle that while it can keep things from coming in, you can also invert the spell so it keeps things from going out of the circle. On top of this, hold on. Here is the Muppet Born. So it was a race. Your con and dex increased by 1. Alignment, chaotic and spectrum, size, speed. Let's see. The smallest Muppet Born rests. Okay, so these guys can be from like small to medium size. Always obscured. No matter how you look at them, Muppet Born's bottom half is always out of view. It said that even when one stands in the middle of a field, the earth will rise up to meet them. For this reason, they are always covered to half cover and received a permanent +2 bonus to AC. The hand. Muppet Born mythology speaks of the hand inside of each of them. They innately know the cantrip Mage Hand. However, the floating hand can only lift up to 5 pounds, move up to 5 feet per character level. Nom nom nom. Muppet Born absorb the energy from food without ever having to swallow it. Cloth and color. All Muppet Born know the cantrip Mending, and once per long rest, it can be used to heal 1d8 hit points. It increases to twice per long rest, 3 times, 4 times, and then 5 times at 18th. You can read, write, common, clothing, and ventrilo. Pretty interesting. You know, we got some new languages there. And subrace, either hand of the monster, hand of the grouch, or hand of the animal. Pick one, and it points out their like subrace bonuses. Like monsters a +1 to charisma, grouch is a +1 to strength, and animals a +1 to wisdom. I like this. I would definitely say no to this though. Just Muppets, I am not a big fan of. However, though, there's definitely a homebrew out there that will have a home for these. Oh man, that's a crazy way of going about it. Let's see. Where the hell is... Alright. But, yeah. I guess it's, you know, we now understand that there's a spell that's in need. Because while Magic Circle is doing it, let's go to, like, the last page, right? And let's see what we got here. For 9th level spells, Weird, True Polymorph, Time Stop, Storm of Vengeance, Ravenous Void, Prismatic Wall, Power Word Kill, Mass Polymorph, Imprisonment. Here we go. You create a magical restraint to hold a creature that you can see within range. The target must succeed on a Wisdom saving throw or be bound by the spell. If it succeeds, it is immune to the spell. It is immune to the spell if you cast it again. While affected by the spell, the creature doesn't need to breathe, eat, or drink, and it doesn't age. Divination spells can't locate or perceive the target. When you cast a spell, you choose one of the following forms of imprisonment: burial, chaining, hedged prison, minimus contain it, slumber, or ending the spell. So, you know, we got a pretty interesting way Spell magic and the spell only if it's cast as a 9th level spell, targeting either the person or the special component used to create it. And you can use a particular special component to create only one prison at a time. If you cast a spell again using the same component, the target of the first casting is immediately freed from its binding. And so we take a look at the material component. A vellum depiction of a carved statuette in its likeness of the target, and a spell component that varies according to the version of the spell you choose. Let's see. Worth at least 500 gold piece per hit die of the target. That's crazy. So, you got all these different types of things. But in the event of... What was the move you were saying? I know we can probably pull up like a little like snippet of that scene. Or the bleach thing. Hive?
Okay, sorry, I had to get up real quick and do something, but I'm back now.
Oh, what was the name? What was the name of the move, if you recall, or like, because I think we can pull up a snippet of it.
From
Bleach.
the anime. Okay, do you want the English translation?
I'm trying to like.
I give you. The English translation is 96 capital fire suspended sealed destruction.
96 capital fire.
And I'll put this in stream VC text. This is the Japanese translation.
There we go. You could that I might be able to do something. Also, everyone, we have our other companion here to join us, Nix, who you would all know from the Tuesday sessions.
Hello.
So today we're going over homebrew stuff, and so fuck, I can't even find it from the new channel.
Oh my gosh.
If you look up Urahara Seals Eisen, I'm sure you'll get the clip.
Wow, I fucking Urahara Seals Eisen.
Yeah,
there we go.
Right there.
So it's like this one right here, right?
Yeah.
And so just like that, you know, there would need to be that is entirely exactly a homebrew thing you would need to come up with. And so when it comes down to it, let's kind of go into, you know, interesting way of talking about our first category, I guess. Creating a spell. When you create a spell, you can, typically it's like, oh, let's start from scratch. So there's a few ideas you need to get along with it, but obviously spell name. Spell name is very important. You can even rename. You can even have a name be in the spell, so it's so and so's spell, like the way there's Mordenkainen's Magnificent Mansion. We need to select the spell level, the school, the casting time, any components that it requires, its range type, and duration type. Now these are very interesting to say. So let's say, for example, I'd imagine that this type of spell would be a concentration spell, and like when the minute has passed, the enemy has been like sealed away, right?
Yeah. It actually took a minute to like cast. I found the name, by the way. And it is a very simple name, but it's literally called just like the Darkwood Seal, because it was found in this place called like Darkwood, which was a place completely just blighted off the map. It's very dangerous to go to.
Wow. Yeah. So it'd be along the lines of this right here, where there's a whole minute of casting that goes along into this. And I'd like to imagine that the type of, like, in the description, it'd be along the lines of when the enemy has to make a saving throw, and if they fail, then they essentially are what's the word I'm looking for? They're restrained, stunned, and incapacitated. They're restrained and incapacitated until they are broken free of it, and at the end of each of their turns, they can try to break free of this, making the same saving throw. If they fail it all the way through to the full minute casting, then the spell would be complete and the seal would be over.
Yeah.
And like for the most part, this would obviously be along the lines of like a 9th level spell because of how powerful it is. Spell school. Let me see. I think imprisonment is under abjuration. We would call this Dark Wood Seal. Casting time. It is definitely like an action. It has to be like the main component. And then variable somatic and material because it's so powerful. Range type. It is ranged. The distance would be what? Let's say like 60 feet, because that looks like how far Urohara was from Aizen.
Yeah.
The duration, a minute. And then what would be like a special component that this would need?
Crap, what was it? I actually have this right here. Sorry, I'm saying I had like there's so many like notes for this spell. It's crazy.
All right.
It was piece. It was like a chunk of like just a blighted tree. Obviously you can't hold it in your hand. You can't hold it in your hand because it will hurt you.
Yeah, a chunk from a blighted tree. Which the spell consumes upon casting. So right here, Darkwood Seal. It is a 9th level spell, abjuration. Casting time it's an action. It is verbal, somatic, and material. So you'd have to do some sort of specific gesture, say something, and use the blight, and use the item from the use the chunk from the blighted tree. It is a 60-foot range with a concentration of a minute. And then this is where we type in the whole description. The enemy, what type of saving throw would you think this would be? Con? Let's see. The spell summons pieces of a blighted tree to
When you look at other sealing spells, is it con?
Does it what? Oh yeah, that's right. Let's see.
No, it might be a deck save. Not sure.
It's like imprisonment explains that it's a wisdom save. Because what in most mythology, whenever something is sealed away, even like big creatures can be, from what I'm looking, like sealed away inside of something. So it can't be a con save because big creatures have pretty high con saves to avoid most things.
I guess it would depend on the type of imprisonment. This one's more a physical thing, so I agree with Nyx. It would be like Dex.
Let's see.
Well, the
So
thing
the
is,
things like,
when
mental
Urahara
imprisonment.
starts it, he has to shoot it into Aizen.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
so
right
it would
there.
be deck save then.
So it
Yeah.
gets fired right there.
Well, the thing is, he shot this into Aizen a long time before like that part got there. Like it took a while to start.
Okay.
It's a lot to explain. I'm not going to explain all that.
No, that's
is it
fine.
based on, like concentration,
Basically,
band
yeah.
fire, or is it?
How about this? Okay. So the casting time is what? Special, right?
Yeah.
And so the casting time is special. How long ago I know we're basically like having you go through these notes and it's a lot, but how long ago was it implanted supposedly in the anime? Or I guess in the series?
My dogs are barking. I don't know.
Let's see. For something like this.
It's hard to judge time in anime fights, man.
I know, right? Okay. Specifically designed to steal you.
You could say like a minute, maybe.
So a minute ago.
Damn, 10 rounds. Ooh.
Well, yeah. So here, I think this is what we'll do. We'll keep it as an action. Okay. The spell summons pieces of the blighted tree to begin the sealing process to the target at hand. The creature makes a dexterity saving throw, or makes a dexterity saving throw. On success, the creature is immune to this spell. For how long would you say? Because it's a pretty hard, like, Urahara is like both really powerful, so it might have been a feat in himself to get it on Aizen, but also it's like, if Urahara missed, would you say this would be like a, oh, I can never try to cast it again on them, or is it like they're immune to the spell for like a day?
Well, okay, so I guess it's kind of like shown in the show that his okay, so in the last arc, his intellect alone was war potential. If that kind of sums it up there, like, he's so smart that, like, nobody knows why he knows so much and where he figured everything out. Like, he's that smart. I feel like he'd have like a backup plan for the backup plan.
Right.
Like,
So then here, we'll say this then, for the next 24 hours, because that would at least mean that with a 9th level spell, this would be their only chance to do this.
yeah.
Is immune to this spell for the next 24 hours. And on top of this, because we said immune to this spell, this means that even if you have another 9th level caster in your party, they're still immune to the spell. Let's see. Let's see. On failure, the target begins the process of being sealed away. Every, let's see, and is what condition? Here, let's take a look at the conditions that D&D can impose on people. Because at this point, we really are just making this spell, right? So, I'd say incapacitated is a huge thing, because incapacitated is the you can't take actions or reactions. You're essentially like stuck like this.
I feel like that might be later in the spell.
All right.
Because the spell does start, like, it does start to restrain him.
Oh, then okay. What would be the first condition? Because this sounds like it's just stacking conditions every round, right?
Yeah. I think it would go to restrained to incapacitated.
And is restrained for the duration of the spell.
And, like, pretty much, I don't know what condition it'd be called here, but I guess, like, into, like, a helpless condition at the end whenever it does finish, if he doesn't make the save.
At the end of every round, the target may make a... Okay, okay, here we go. So the dexterity was to dodge it, but now to, like, kind of break free from it, it's more than just dexterity, because you can't just repeat a dex save. You must make a wisdom saving throw. To break free from it. Because let's see. So in this case, okay, I become restrained, and so now my speed is 0. Attacks have advantage against me, and I have disadvantage on dex saving throws, and also my attacks have disadvantage. So I'm kind of like still able to do what I want, but obviously it's like I can't move. So it's more like if I'm still stuck in this one-on-one. Then if it's a minute, we're talking 10 rounds. So how about every two rounds, the creature is still within the sealing process. A new condition is put on them. Every 2 rounds after the initial casting, a new condition is put on the creature.
It could go from restrained, incapacitated to it, like, covering, like, your mouth to where you can't do, like, verbal components.
Well, here, let's also take a look at this. Some things that would make sense,
Maybe
right?
silent or whatever.
So here we go. Stunned paralyzed, and incapacitated are three pretty obvious ones, right?
Yeah.
However, a stunned creature becomes incapacitated. Let's see. Automatically fails strength and dex. So paralyzed and stunned are so far almost anything. Attack rolls against the creature have advantage, and any attack that hits a creature is a critical. So let's do this. So if things are auto crits against attacks against them that are within 5 feet, paralyzed sounds like it would be like the second to last condition placed on them.
Yeah.
Incapacitated could be the last one placed, but let's see. It's and then obviously when like the full 10 rounds have passed, the creature is sealed away and is unable to ever come back from it. Grappled, incapacitated, invisible, petrified. Petrified's kind of funny, but obviously that's not it. Well, actually, hold on. If there's only 2 conditions, then that really matter. Then it'd be after every 5 rounds? No. Let's see. 4. That'd be 8 rounds. Alright, so how about this then? Check this out. Every 4 rounds, after the initial casting, a new condition is put on the creature. The first of the 2 is the paralyzed condition, and the second is the incapacitated condition. Remember, guys, just spell it how it sounds. No work. And the second is the incapacitated condition. After the full minute duration has passed, the target becomes permanently sealed away and can never be freed except by divine intervention. Actually, because Wish would also, like, here, for such a powerful spell, it would suck ass if, like, Wish was, like, that's it, right? But there's there's spells in this game that are also, like, let's see. Dispel Magic at 9th level would work. 2 Polymorph can work. Time Stop. Hold on. There's another spell that's a good way for this.
So, like, the context of the show, this was basically to bind a god or a demigod, so you wouldn't want Wish to work.
Yeah. Here, there's
So the way it is in the show is he has the Hogyoku implanted inside him. He literally cannot die. He's pretty much immortal. Like, he just can't die. He can be sealed away, he can be restrained, but he can't die.
Here, check this out. I got an idea for this. Okay. There's a spell that's perfect for this as well. Because, like, you know, we're looking at a 9th level spell in this case, so we need other 9th level spells to help us out, understand what to do.
Yeah.
No, because only, let's see, Wish can stop time ravage.
I'd say Divine Intervention could totally interfere with it, because it's like a... I don't know. But it'd have to be a really, like, high Divine Intervention, you know?
Right. Let's see. Because Divine Intervention sounds like it's something that the cleric could call upon, you know? Like a level 20 cleric could undo this. Not even that, a level 10 cleric could technically undo this if they roll well enough. Let's see.
There's my water bottle.
There's like a spell that kills someone from beyond. Like, not even a Wish spell can do it. Let's see. Spells that not even Wish can cure. D&D 5e. Oh, not 53. Deep dive, the Wish spell.
Doesn't seem like there is.
No, hold on. I guess that's really it, right? Except by divine... let's see. On. Except by... a deity. Let's see. Yeah, that's just it, except by a deity. So, the spell summons pieces of a blighted tree to begin the sealing process to the target at hand. The creature makes a dexterity saving throw, and on success, the creature is immune to this spell for the next 24 hours. On failure, the target begins the process of being sealed away and is restrained for the duration of the spell. At the end of every round, the target may make a wisdom saving throw to break free from it. After every 4 rounds after the initial casting, a new condition is put on the creature. The first of the 2 is the paralyzed condition, and the second is the incapacitated condition. After the full minute duration has passed, the target becomes permanently sealed away and can never be freed except by a deity.
So wouldn't you put duration type as concentration up to a minute?
Yeah, exactly. It's right there. Concentration, duration, minute.
Oh, okay.
And then on top of this, let's see. We would do this as well. This would also have to be a very important note. If the creature is immune to any of the conditions stated in this spell, the spell bypasses those immunities. And it's like, you know, for a creature to fail their dex saving throw and then 10, technically 9 wisdom saving throws following, they kind of deserve this, you know? They kind of deserve to have those immunities be bypassed. At which point, it's kind of like, fuck, guys, please, for the love of God, protect me while I'm casting this spell. I can't focus on this. Oh, hold on, here's another thing. Let's see. The caster, after a full minute, okay. Once the process has begun, the caster must spend, let's see. The caster has their movement speed set to 0 and cannot take any further actions until the spell is complete or the target breaks free. That's a very important thing. So it states that, like, you know, once the caster starts this, they're also just as stuck as the other person.
Oh wow.
So it's like, guys, please, for the love of God, protect me while I'm doing this.
This seems more like a last resort spell.
Well, this
Like, if you
seems
guys...
this seems like the spell that, like, you have to, like, this is very much a key spell, right? Like, there's only one way to stop this dude, and it's using the Darkwood Seal spell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I mean by that.
Also, quick question.
Yeah.
Mr. Bleach enthusiast, can Urahara cast this again?
Probably.
Probably.
He never uses it again.
He never uses it again, which, you know, that kind of leads into the whole, if the spell succeeds, the caster who casted this spell cannot do it again. But the key word is if it succeeds.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of that? Because the wish spell also has something similar, and this is a pretty powerful spell.
Hmm.
You know, Urahara's kind of like, he is the DM's PC who is here to help save the day type of thing, which is kind of funny when I put it in that retrospect. But you know, in the event of, let's say, you know, we can't make Ichigo that strong. What if Ichigo tried casting this? Would it be something where Ichigo can't do it again forever?
Well, so during that fight, Ichigo actually uses something that takes away his Soul Reaper powers,
Okay.
which is the final Getsuga Tensho.
Okay, so then check this out. If the spell is completed and the target is permanently sealed away. Oh. The caster can never cast this spell again. I don't know whether or not I should add until unless the creature that they sealed away breaks free from it, because then that implies like, oh, Mr. Old Man Wizard just needs to go back and do it all over again. Actually, yeah. Unless the target breaks free from their sealing. There we go. And so, for final clarification once again, the spell summons pieces of a blighted tree to begin the sealing process to the target at hand. The creature makes a dexterity saving throw. On success, the creature is immune to this spell for the next 24 hours. On failure, the target begins the process of being sealed away and is restrained for the duration of the spell. At the end of every round, the target may make a wisdom saving throw to break free from it. Every 4 rounds after the initial casting, a new condition is put on the creature. The first of the 2 is the paralyzed condition, and the second is the incapacitated condition. If the creature is immune to any of the conditions stated in this spell, the spell bypasses those immunities. After the full minute duration has passed, the target becomes permanently sealed away and can never be freed except by a deity. Once the process has begun, the caster has their movement speed set to 0 and cannot take any further actions until the spell is complete or the target breaks free. If the spell is completed and the target is permanently sealed away, the caster can never cast the spell again unless the target breaks free from their sealing. Let's see, no higher scaling, available for classes. This seems like a very wizard spell. I'm trying to think of other like classes this would make sense to give to. Because wizard is pretty much like, you know, the big... If there's a spell in the game, they're more than likely to have access to it.
I'm still unsure about like making it so they can't cast it again. What about a permanent debuff to one of the stats, maybe?
Well, that's why the main thing is that, you know, if the person that they spent all of this time sealing eventually breaks away from that seal, the spell is able to be cast again by the same person. But what do the rest of you think? Do you feel like the never casting the spell again is too much of a negative for this spell?
They get 2 attempts. I'll just say about that.
Well, because here, remember this. This is under the condition that the caster has successfully sealed away someone.
I mean, what are the material components?
The blighted tree would probably be very rare, right?
There's only one there in my campaign, at least. There is that one location where like that happened. Like,
oh, hold on.
It is pretty much a ground zero.
Okay,
For something,
a chunk from a blighted tree. Now here's an interesting thing to make this spell more worth it then, for how rare this spell is to me. A chunk from a blighted tree that has fallen off naturally. So
fair.
Now that's fair. You can't just go to the blighted tree and just take a chunk off. It has to be a chunk that fell off naturally.
Ow.
So this is a very hard to cast spell. It has a lot of conditions that it needs. The biggest condition is that blighted tree spell. As that blighted tree component, and then even once you do it, there's a chance that, you know, the spell eventually just breaks. And so if all you had was that one chunk, then that kind of sucks, because once they succeed, they're immune to the spell for the next 24 hours, and the spell consumes that chunk on use.
Oof.
Man.
So it's like, oh fuck, guys, please don't let this be the end. So this is the big spell.
To say DC must be extremely high just to be worth it.
Well, by the time you have access to 9th level spells, your DC should be pretty high.
Yeah.
Now I'm just imagining the poor goblin that ends up taking this spell. Yo, DM, can I just go to one random goblin somewhere and just seal him away?
Ooh.
Sure. Are you sure about this? Yeah, it's fine.
Yes, I am sure.
Why would you want to do that though?
No, it's the person, like, imagine session 1, there's one person in a town who pissed you off, and so finally you've done it, you've finished the campaign. What does your character want to go off and do? Remember that asshole who pissed me off in session 1? Yeah? Darkwood Seal! Ah! But here,
Now you just throw the big daddy at them.
I would say Wizard can do this. Artificer would make sense. Cleric would also be a big one who can cast this if this
Artificer
is a
doesn't even
seal.
have access to 9th level spells though.
Oh, you're right. So Wizard and Cleric would both make sense for this, because Clerics, like, if this is supposed to be a spell that can even put away a deity, this is very much a very Cleric in line spell along with a Wizard. Not sure about Bard. Maybe Druid?
It seems like a druid thing, yeah. With you know,
Oh,
the blighted tree. You know?
yeah, you're right. No paladins don't even get access to this. Rangers don't have access to this. So the last one would be sorcerer. So this would be all of our 9th level spellcasters: wizard, cleric, druid, and sorcerer. Oh, except bard. You know what? Fuck it. Let's give it to bard.
Wait, did you forget
Bard.
about warlock?
Oh, that's right, warlock. Okay. So we put across every class that has access to 9th level spells.
Basically.
Wizard, cleric, druid, sorcerer, bard, and warlock. I'm trying to think if there's any I missed.
I mean, technically paladins are half casters, but I don't think they get 9th level spells.
No. Paladins, artificers, rangers, technically fighters, and rogues don't get access to 9th level spells. Yeah. And I...
Yeah, unless he gets like 5th level, I think.
Alright. More relevant details once the spell is created. Alright. Let us create the spell. Casting time. 1 action.
Just for 60. What?
This field is required. Action. Let's see, let's do this. Change terrains. Oh, so it already does that. Okay. Concentration. 1 minute. Now let's create the spell. Spell has been created. And then from here, there's like further things you can do on this. Like here's the basic information, which is everything we filled out. Additional information such as area of effect type, as part of a weapon attack, attack type, save type. Dex. And from there, effect on spell, save fell. Spell effect tags. Oh, this is control. Because that's like the thing that the other one is labeled as. Imprisonment is labeled purely as a control and warding spell, so we'll put it as both of those. Alright. Save changes. Yeah, get into the music. Oh yeah. I'm like bobbing my head to this while we're creating this spell. Alright guys, I'm getting into the system. We're hacking magic.
Alright, let's make guns now.
Yeah, I was actually thinking of one of the first couple of things I thought about when I started playing D&D. So there's no real way that you can do like Indiana Jones swinging from the roof type things. One of the first ideas that I had in like the early campaigns was like, I'm gonna get a bucket of ball bearings and I'm gonna get me a hook with some hempen rope and I'm gonna fucking use it like I forget what they call them, but essentially just like a hook to latch onto something on the roof, swing across while dumping
A grappling hook?
bearings. Yeah, grappling hook. That's the name of it.
Right. I'd imagine probably it would need to be like, cause you know, I don't. Someone's gonna correct me on this, I'm sure. I don't think whips in real life can do that. And
Not
so,
whips, grappling hooks. That's
Right.
why I said a rope and a grappling hook.
well then, even taking it another step further, what if you wanted to make it so there was a whip that could do this? And so that would just be a magical item whip.
Or you
It's
can
a-
take it a step further and get,
Wait, Zeno, you made it Mephistopheles?
grappling gun.
Yes, I did.
I want to see.
All right, here, hold on. So allow me to put this out. So here is D&D Beyond, right? We all know that D&D Beyond, when you create something in the D&D Beyond homebrew, it's able to be added into to homebrew campaigns. So, for example, now that we have made the Darkwood Seal, let's see. Now that we have made the Darkwood Seal, this is now available for you guys to use.
Nice.
Huh.
But obviously, it's at the caveat that like, oh fuck, how do I even get across casting this spell? And so you'll see like Righteous Edge has never like been. Let's see. This is like a unique thing. In one of the homebrew campaigns I made, it was that when you go to a certain location called the Vault, which I might still have be a thing in the new one, but it's gonna be harder to find. If you manage to complete this mega dungeon, when you reach the bottom, you actually get a magic item that can only be attuned by your character, and it's like specifically made for your character. So like this one was weapon, longsword, artifact, requires attunement by a attunement by a righteous edge can only be attuned by its true owner, Barstock, the Undying Light. And so it's like, okay, this is a thing that can only be done for him, but you know, Shark Dog was the thing I made.
Shark dog.
Don't you mean a land shark?
No,
Shark
mean-
dog.
I mean, hold on, where is it? Shark Dog.
Wow.
But now I like this one too.
Oh my god.
No one can truly feel the power of Shark Dog. But okay. There was also another one, Underdark Urchin. This is a disable comments. There was like a bunch of things on this. What was this? Wow, hold on. Was this actually popular? Open link in new tab. It was you. Wow, I made this and like 39 people are using this and 333 people have seen this.
What?
Wow.
Yeah, it's nice. Shark Dog. 13 people use this. 1,132 people have seen it.
Shark dog.
Yeah.
36 people use the dough fruit.
Wow, that's actually
That's
crazy. 36 people use that. But yeah, so you can see like, so D&D Beyond is a wonderful thing. It really goes into the depth as to like, you kind of see the behind the scenes about how items and stuff are put into the game. But there's one thing that D&D Beyond can't create, and it's actually whole new classes. So that's, I think, one of their biggest downfalls. But it's understandable because the actual coding that goes behind putting a whole new class in the game is probably a lot. As it was a lot for them to put Artificer in the game. So this is where a personal favorite of mine is the Home Brewery. The Home Brewery is a site that gives you examples of how the scripting works for this, and it allows you to upload and make pages that look like they're just straight out of the book.
Huh.
So, for example, Mephistopheles was originally created here, and I had to import him over there. So here is Mephistopheles, and I even gave like a whole lore page as well, and his artifact. And look at it's Mephistopheles looking down on the person. But then it was like Mephistopheles, large shape changer devil, lawful evil. Our AC 19, 485 hit points, 100-foot flying speed with a 50-foot base speed. Ashen Essence. When Mephistopheles is hit by an attack, he can use his reaction to collapse into ash, teleport himself and his possessions to an unoccupied space he can see within 30 feet of him, and cause the attack to automatically miss. Within his realm of Cana, Mephistopheles can teleport up to 300 feet or up to 30 feet when subject to an effect that normally prevents teleportation. So it's like, it's, you know, I tried my best to make something that was worthy of him, because I was so looking forward to when Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes was coming out, and we were like, oh, this is like filled with like archdevils and stuff, like, oh hell yeah, give me Mephistopheles, I've been waiting for this, and they didn't, so I got pissed. But I was also kind of happy that I had already made a Mephistopheles stat block at that point. But it's like, there you could see the code behind this. But another example is the Legendary Soldier. This is an entire Solid Snake based class. And so you think like, oh, why not just make a fighter, right? Yes and no. If we go by spell is pretty obvious. After what we just did, we take an idea for a spell and we evaluate it based off of how strong it is. Is it something that the person can casually use, or is it something that is on a limited use, or is it something that's on like a once per game type of use? We take that into account. I would say it's pretty obvious to gauge 9th level spells, and it's also pretty obvious to gauge cantrips, but the hard part is trying to figure out like a 1st through 8th level spell, in which case you kind of like take spells of that equivalency, and you take damage types, you take damage, how many dice are rolled, and you take an example of that, or if it's a utility, you see what it can be done at those levels to do for utility, and like what are the limitations of those spells. Monsters, same thing. You can probably gauge like a CR0 monster versus a CR30 monster. And so when you're going through it, you want to compare. Here's an interesting thing I will point out. Going to the DMG as well. The DMG also gives us information on how to make our own monsters. Dungeon Master Workshop. Creating a monster. Switching weapons. All right. Quick monster stats. Monster stats by challenge rating. And so this gives you like a table that lets you understand what you're working with here. If the creature is a CR30 creature, most creatures that are CR30 have a CR23, have a DC 23 when they subject other people to making saving throws. Here's their average hit points. Here is their attack bonus. Oh no, sorry, that was damage per round. Here's their hit points. This is their AC and their proficiency bonus. The proficiency bonus is definitely a nice way to go, because then you realize, okay, if it's a CR 29 creature and its proficiency bonus is +9, that means that if it has a strength of 30 is a +10, +9, that's a +19 hit. And that's also not taken into account if the item is magical and to what level. Is it a +1, +2, or +3? So imagine like a creature with 30 strength, proficiency bonus +9 with a weapon that is like a +3. That is +12. That's a +22 to hit.
Oh my goodness.
But obviously that's like going for based off of like super strong. We're making the fucking strongest creature there is. Whereas, let's make a CR5 creature. Okay, proficiency bonus +3. Here's what its armor class is probably going to be running. But these are all averages based off of what is at that level. You can tweak this as you wish by like increasing this and lowering this, or maybe just like bumping them up a little to be, maybe it could be considered 6, but at this point it's just that's what it is to take it, test it, and run it. You take the idea, you make it up, you test it, see how it is, see what your players or people think about it, and then you run it. The Legendary Soldier, this had like I think 10 iterations of it, because I would submit it to Reddit, and then I was getting like live feedback from Reddit on this, and so we were able to adjust it as so. Let's see, monster stat block, yeah. Basic statistics, adjust the statistics. Final CR rating after you adjust all that stuff. Definitive challenge rating. Defensive challenge rating, and offensive challenge rating, because creatures that are built for defense have high CRs compared to like creatures that can do a lot more damage than them, but it's like that's not their purpose. Experience points. Creating a monster stat block, give it a name, size, type, alignment, figure out its ability scores. What is the expected challenge rating? Going back to the whole like, okay, this is what I assume it's going to be, but when I'm finished with it, we'll adjust it. What's the AC? Use the table. Determine appropriate AC based off of its dex modifier and so forth. What are its hit points? Same thing, use the table. You can assign hit dice. Here's a huge part that helps when you're making your monsters. The bigger the creature, the bigger its hit dice are. If it's tiny, it's probably rolling d4s. If it's gargantuan, it's rolling d20s for hit dice. And if 10.5 is the average, then a creature who is CR 30 would have 30 d20s. So 10.5 times 30. 315 hit points from the hit dice alone. That's not including the Constitution modifier. Let's say the creature had a what was it? A 30 Constitution. So 30 times 30. Right? Oh no, sorry. It wouldn't be this, because it'd be 10 times 30. You take the 300. You take the 315. And so this creature has about 615 hit points for being a CR 30 creature that is gargantuan and has a 30 on its con score. And right there, it's like, okay, we figured out how many hit points it has, and now let's keep going with all this stuff. Determine if it has any vulnerabilities, resistances, or immunities. Effective hit points based off resistance and immunities. So the expected challenge rating, hit multiplier for resistances, hit multiplier for immunities. Let's see. Attack bonuses, same thing, you use the table. Figure out what its damage type is, what type of damage, where's the damage coming from, the overall damage output per round, because that's also a very good thing to know. If this is a creature that has like one hit, but that one hit can like down a level 5 character, then you're going to understand that you're running a higher CR creature and so forth. What are its save DCs? Usually save DCs are once again based off proficiency, +8 plus whatever stat is relevant to this ability. What's the speed? Is it flying? Increase the monster's effective armor class by 2 if it can fly and deal damage at range. And if its expected challenge rating is 10 or lower, higher level characters have a greater chance to deal with flying creatures. Saving throw bonuses. Final CR rating after you finally have gone through this. And once you have figured out its CR, now let's go ahead and figure out its utility stuff. So like, what are its skill bonuses? What conditions is it immune to? Its senses. What's its passive perception? That's once again based off of 10 plus its perception bonus. What languages does it know? Does it have telepathy? And here's an interesting thing. Monster features. So this is a huge, very huge list of all the monster creatures that have these abilities that are unique. So like, let's take, is it an aggressive creature? Increase the monster's effective per round damage output by 2. Ambusher, Morpheus, Brute, and then you would go to like Bugbear to see what that actual ability is. And so this is the whole. This is very much a DM who does this usually either has one creature that they're doing this for, and they want to create like a really detailed thing. So like, this is our BBEG, or they do the quick one where they're like, okay, I just need to create like a bunch of unique creatures for my world, and I want to create quick stat blocks for them rather than doing the super detailed thing. All right, this will work. But let's say, what was it? That was a Bugbear I'm looking for. Now that we see this, let's see what the Bugbear Brute ability is. A melee weapon deals 1 extra die of its type when the Bugbear hits with it included already in its attack. Hence why the Morningstar would normally do 1d8, but it does 2d8s because it's held by a Bugbear. So, increase the monster's effective per round damage by the amount noted on the trait. And it's just, you can keep going down this list, and you can understand how to work with this. Let's see, there's one that's also really nice here. Regeneration. Increase the monster's effective hit points by 3 times the number of hit points the monster regenerates each round. So that's like, oh man, the creature has regeneration. Let's increase it, because it's, imagine this gargantuan creature, by the way, who has about 615. Increase the monster hit points by 3 times the number of hit points monster regenerates per round. I think trolls regenerate 10. So if trolls regenerate 10, they're large. Let's say a huge regenerates 20, and a gargantuan regens 30. Scroll back up to see these hit points, because I think it was, okay, huge gargantuan. So yeah, 30. So 3 times 30 is 90. So let's plus 90. Here's our hit points now for our creature that has 30 con. It's gargantuan, so it was using the average number of those instead of just rolling for each individual one. And with it having a regeneration of 30 hit points per round, it gets a plus 90 to its hit points overall. And then on top of this, here's NPC features. Oh, what do I want to do to make my NPCs? You take a commoner stat block, and then you assign them like what race they are. Here are the ability modifiers that race gives them, and here's the features that gives them. And so it's like, I want to make an entire town that's filled with goblins. All right, -2 to their strength, give +2 to their dexterity, and now all those goblins have nimble escape, small size, dark vision of 60 feet, and they can all speak common and goblin. And then you're like, okay, if they all have dark vision, let's make this an underdark location. So let's make this like a little cave city. And they all have nimble escape, so this would mean that it would need to be a location that has like a bunch of alleyways and stuff. So now this goblin city feels very much like an underground, like rogue city of rogues. And there's so much that comes into like homebrewing up your own stuff when it comes to creating your own monsters. it's also going to how to create your spells, creating magic items, creating new character options, how to create a race, how to create a subclass. There's so much in the DMG that's really good. But how do we go about creating an entire class? Here's, I guess, where my critique comes into this, because all it is about modifying a class. My advice to anyone who is trying to make your own class is figure out what the class's overall thing does. For example, do any of you have an idea for a class that you would want to make that just none of the classes quite hit right?
If you want to be
Doomslayer?
There's like purely psychic classes, like a telekineticist kind of. There's things that touch upon it, and there's features and abilities, but there's no like pure, I think Professor X or
Okay.
Jean Grey.
Okay, so we'll do this. We'll take the psychic. We'll take the doom. We'll take this quote unquote Doomslayer, and because those are two very like opposite ends of the spectrum, right? So let's take psychics, D&D, and then let's take Doomslayer. Okay. So starting off with the psychic, let's come up with at least like 3 different ways the psychic can manifest their abilities. So let's say Professor X, who is super telekinetic. His whole thing is like the amount that he can lift and push and move is just ridiculous based off his intellect, right? So already the psychic class is an intelligence-based class. But here's another thing interesting to know. Would you guys say that a class that revolves around being psychic, do you guys think that this class has any martial prowess at all?
No.
Nah.
Here.
I would say slightly, just because they'd have to have a physical defense.
So then that physical defense could also be described as like a psychic shield, right? Like a barrier. Because I know there's also like a thing that could also do it. So,
Yeah.
and as the person who kind of threw this idea at us, what do you think, babe? Do you think this psychic class that we're trying to imagine would have any sort of martial prowess? Oh, hold on, let's see. It's too loud at work. Psychic blast, Myrene, telekinetic are your 3. All right, I'm seeing the text. Let me go ahead and also pull him in here. Welcome, X. Right now we're going on how it is to make up an entire class. So, babe, I'm reading the chat. So, would you say that this class has any martial prowess as the person who imposed the idea? Okay. How much is the question? Not with this. Okay. But more like mental damage and defend. Okay, but like we're talking like physical characteristics, right? So like the way wizards and sorcerers, they have little to no weapon proficiencies, but they make up for that because of their raw amount of arcane power. Whereas like a barbarian and fighter, they like are little to no magic, but they have like the ability to use almost everything. Monk psychics. Okay, that's an interesting way of putting this. Okay, so let's take this then. In two ways that we can make this psychic class, one of which has little martial prowess, and the other one has a lot of martial prowess. Now that's also kind of a hard thing, but just go along with what I'm about to say. The more physically inclined the class is, the smaller the hit dice are. As we have kind of seen an example with the wizard and sorcerer being d6s, and the barbarian being a d12 being the most upfront class. But then what about the d8s and d10s? So if we take a look at all of the classes that actually do run d8s, we're looking at artificer, bard, clerics are d10s, I believe, right? Let's see. Clerics are d8s. Okay. d8s. Druids are d8s. Monks are d8s. rangers, rogues, and warlocks. All of these classes are not without physical prowess. The warlock has hexblade. The monk is obviously all about being like punchy McGee, and the cleric can be up front. In fact, they can also be a tank. But because they all lean onto a side of using some sort of resource pool that pulls more than, let's say, like our fighter or our barbarian, they're gonna be more D8 for their hit dice, which is weird, right? Because monks are technically, you can play a monk as an upfront person, but due to the way that monks are built, monks are upfront, but they're slippery. In the same way a rogue can be upfront, but is also a slippery little bastard. Those two are perfect examples of classes that, while they're upfront, they have abilities that allow them to be harder to hit in melee. And so D8s is perfect for these classes that can avoid being hit to compensate for how squishy they are. And then for our D10s, we got, fighter, paladin. I think that's it, actually, fighter and paladin, because I know. Oh, blood. I think blood hunter is also D10. Yes, okay. And so these three classes are perfect examples of classes that are very physically, very physical. They are almost always up front. Fighter has some exceptions based off how you want to play them. And while some of them have abilities that they can pull on from, they don't pull on it as much. Paladins aren't big on spellcasting, and on top of this, most of the paladin spells are going into smite, which is a very physical thing that's going into their attacks. Fighter is pretty obvious. It can be a hack and slash, it can be a ranger, but with how versatile fighter is, they decided to just go with D10 because more often than not you're playing a fighter up front. And blood hunters, it's almost in their nature to be playing up front. Same thing as a fighter, they have the versatility to pull from it, and the resource pool that they have, it damages them. So they have a resource pool that demands that they have a decent hit die size, so that way they are able to be compensated for what they're losing. And then, we get to barbarian. Barbarian is D12. They're almost always expected to be up front. Barbarians, it's not to say that barbarians can't be ranged, but their class definitely leans towards them being all up in everyone's faces, taking the most of the damage with abilities that give them resistances. So this is the tankiest class by its abilities. Rage, reckless attack that makes everyone else have advantage against him, and their high hit die size means that they're always going to be up front. And then
later on they get improved criticals and stuff like that, depending on which
brutal criticals.
Exactly. And so let's take our psychic. If this is someone who has all these abilities, but the way you described it is that it's a psychic monk, it sounds like they're almost like in the way like a rogue, a monk, or maybe even a warlock are, where they do have some physical prowess, but most of it comes from their mental capacity. So this would be the second class that has a D8 that is intelligence based, but whereas the artificer definitely is more spell reliant. Actually, no, these two would be very spell reliant, but here's the difference. Whereas the artificer is semi-spell reliant, only getting up to 5th level spells, this is a spellcaster who has access to 9th level spells, D8 of hit type, and is not a warlock with only 2 spell slots. Which, that in itself is already a huge draw to this. Oh, look at this. We're getting another D8 hit type class, but unlike Warlock, who has only access to two leveled spells, and unlike Artificer, who has ways to counteract. Artificers can be tanky, strangely enough, and Artificers can also be very squishy. It just kind of really just depends. Artificers are a really weird one. I don't like using that as an example. I think better examples are like Cleric has access to 9th level spells, but is clearly has the ability to wear medium and heavy armor. Druids also the same thing, but Druids have ways of making themselves tanky by substituting their health with Wild Shape. So this would be in the same way as you have the ability to technically be up front, but whereas monks are very slippery, rogues are hiding, Clerics have actual armor and druids have wild shape. This is someone whose AC probably comes from their psychic barriers that they can summon. Think oh, you know what comes to my mind? Mob Psycho. Actually, yeah. Oh my god. Okay, here. So this is
Oh, you want to slap mob in D&D?
well, yeah. We're doing a Mob Psycho class, which mob is clearly like a level 20.
So Esper's class.
Yes, Esper class would be a class features mostly for big 3 or 4, so less spell slots used. Once or twice per short rest, long rest, mind reader, psychic blast. Okay. So then we take along the ideas of we take upon foundations, and already we have something to work with. We know it's hit die size. We know that this is going to be access to heavy spells, and some of these spells can actually imbue the Esper with physical prowess. So let's actually use the Mob Psycho for example. Mob Psycho has a very clear definition of there are 3 different types of Espers. Or, there can be more, but I'm gonna like be generic and substitute into 3. There is Espers who use their psychic abilities to imbue upon their physical strength. There are Espers like Mob, who it's pure psychic energy that they can control to adapt around their environment. And I want to say the middle ground is there are control Espers. These are Espers who while their abilities are definitely physical in the way that they motion themselves, they're still using psychic energy that's more refined and focused instead of a huge blast. Like, as much as Mob has a lot of control over his stuff, there's clearly like when he uses his abilities, it's like a fucking explosion of psychic energy. And so we take upon this and we say that Espers are very much I was about to say Espers have to be wisdom based, but then we have so many wisdom based classes. We need an intelligence based class. And as much as a lot of the characters in Mob Psycho aren't intelligent despite them being Espers, I'm still going to say it's an intelligence based class. And then from here, we know its proficiency bonus goes up. If we're saying that this is a 9th level spellcaster, we know how its spells scale up due to the fact that we have Druid, Cleric, Sorcerer, and Wizard. And then it's just kind of coming up with like, how do we define these subclasses? So it's very obvious that the physical subclass, while having access to that psychic barrier, doesn't focus on it like the one who is the explosion of psychic energy. So their ability comes with running this low AC, but probably ways to almost perform like a monk. Access to evasion, access to ways that can help them with their saving throws, and even ways that allow them to probably regen those abilities. Oh, hello. Someone wishes to join us. Hello, Lola. You are here for homebrew class. Welcome, Stinky. All right, and so right here we have a very physical brute class that we can kind of come up with, and I'm not. This is probably a good point that I'll probably put notes in somewhere for this stuff. But we have an intelligence-based class that has D8s, spellcaster, and ways to be slippery depending on how you run it. I've been kind of going off, but how would you guys picture this physical Esper if we're going off the idea that we're basing this on Mob Psycho status?
Well, you actually do have physical enhancement type Espers, so...
Mm-hmm. We have definitely seen some that have either focused... Like, when it comes to physical enhancements, it's weird. I've never seen a physical enhancer who does it for a dexterity. It's always like their muscles are just becoming like huge beyond belief. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you have those that can instantly teleportation or some type of ability like that. Physical.
I would say, if anything, let's put that under control, right? Because those that can affect themselves to the point where it's dexterity, it's like, so if there's the brute psyker is strength intelligence. We have psychic overload is what is pure intelligence. And lastly, the one that would be dexterity based would be environmental psychers. So psychers that can actually like alter you rather than like they're so fast, it's more like they're blinking all over the place. And that's a very dexterity based one. So how would you go about defining these subclasses? I kind of want to hear how you guys what's going on in your guys' brains.
Okay. We have pyro, electric. Well, what's the term for electric or electrical?
My net keeps going like in and out. Jeez.
Your neck keeps going in and out. Well, here, welcome back, I guess. How would you go about defining a strength-based psyker?
Oh man. I mean, there's a couple of those.
We could just say enhancement.
All right. So I guess the core ability of this class is physical enhancement. Like the way the barbarian bear totem is all about like, you know, boom, let's get physical and use all of our totems to make us buffed. So we'll call this the physical enhancer. Because this one doesn't seem to be using spell slots, we're kind of almost making like a pseudo paladin in this way. So it's like by spending a number of spell slots, you can up to, let's say, like 5th level, you can do different types of buffs. You can only have each of these buffs on you at a time. And so it's like, here's a list of all these different types of buffs that you can pull from. You know this many buffs at these levels. So it's like the list has 20 of them. All right, at level 3, you can only have access to 2 of those. Then at like level 5, you get access to 3, then 4, then 5 of these 20. So it makes so it's a super versatile thing despite what physical one you're making. Yeah. Dimple was physically enhanced, exactly. And so it's like how do you want to make yourself? And this is actually kind of where we can like start saying that the physical one, the brute psyker, can be a dexterity one if we make like some of those 20 and like, oh, instead of making this a strength purely one, it's like, oh, you can do one to increase your movement speed by 30. You can do one that increases your dexterity score, or you can make one that's all about pumping up your physical score. Yeah, they're like, also we're just kind of like shooting off stuff. There's nothing that's officially being like written down for this, but it's kind of giving you guys the idea of like how it is to make a class. So if the physical enhancer is all about doing these types of buffs to themselves, it's pretty obvious that the psychic overload is one that's just all about like completely overloading your opponent with the amount of raw psychic energy that's inside of you. So we can make this one's core ability just psychic explosion. The spells that you pull from can be enhanced, let's say like a number of days equal to your proficiency bonus, by putting your brain, by like using your brain to like really push it to the limits. Any attempts past your what's it called, your proficiency bonus could be so like, you know, clearly it's like, oh, I'm about to go nuts in this dude, but I get a point of exhaustion for every one I do. So it's one of those class features that imposes exhaustion, and on a squishy class that can mean a lot compared to like the barbarian getting it. But nonetheless, I think that gives for a lot of like, ooh, what you mean I can have max damage on my fireball spell if I just make my brain hurt a little? That'd be crazy, actually. I'm just now picturing that. Like you can see like their forehead get all veiny because of how often they're just using this explosion of psychic energy.
Yo, it's just Sheen.
It's Sheen. But let's see. I think that is more than enough to kind of explain like how this one works, and then from there you kind of like you're going off of how to further improve upon this with any future features. That's always a good thing to keep in mind as well. When you're making a subclass, the first feature or two or even three define what the subclass does. With Assassin, you gain proficiency with the Disguise Kit, Poisoner's Kit, and on top of this, if you hit someone on a surprise round or they haven't, it's an auto crit, and if they haven't taken a turn yet, you have advantage. So it's very obvious. The Rogue Assassin is defined based off of its feature, whereas Rogue overall is defined by sneak attack and its uncanny dodges and so forth. And from there, define the class, then define the subclass based off of the core feature or features. And I guess the last one being the whole like, oh, how do I go about being this controller? From there, we can explain that whereas the physical enhancer was all about buffing themselves from a list of enhancements, and the psychic exploder was all about like pushing their spells to the furthest limits. This is, I guess, our utility psyker, who can I'm trying to think. While I'm trying to think, how would you guys think to make this utility psyker? What would be the thing that would define them, whereas compared to the other two?
What kind of psyker? Sorry, like cut it for me.
Like utility based. If we have one that's all about using their abilities to improve upon their physical enhancements, and one that's all about using their psychic energy to push their spells to the limit, how do we define a utility psyker?
I would make them a half caster with some form of physical fighting defense to kind of offset the spells.
All right. I think the main issue with that is that the overall class is like the overall cast can't be a half class. The overall class is a full caster. So, in order to really do that, it could be along the lines of, how do you turn a full caster class into a half caster? By either making their spell slots expended more often. So here, I guess the utility thing would be, you could spend spell slots on ways to affect your environment or ways to affect your allies in a way that isn't described in a spell, but that also just seems like a full caster.
I don't know if I'd make it a half caster, but it would have abilities that would take spell slots.
So here, like, what's like a few that you can think off the top of your head?
Like if this was like utility, damn, shit.
I know, right? It's one of those like, we can all come up with the best healer, the best brute, and the best spellcaster, but when we hear the word utility, it's like,
yeah,
it's hard.
Maybe you could do something like Magneto or something, where you can manipulate like metal or something.
Interesting. So let's take this altering the environment thing. Let's expand upon this. By spending a number of spell slots, you can affect a 5-foot cubic space. Sorry. By spending a first level spell slot, you can control. Oh, hold on. This is I'm gonna pull from Let me do this. Let me find, because Limbo also has an interesting ruling behind this that we could probably utilize for this. Because Limbo is another one of those planes that's defined by the intelligence, and this seems like a very utility one. Let's see, outer planes, Limbo. Here we go. Limbo is this plane of pure chaos and energy. In Limbo, the power of the mind. As an action, a creature in Limbo can make an intelligence check to mentally move an object on the plane that it can see within 30 feet of it. The DC depends on the size. On a successful check, the creature moves the object 5 feet plus for 1 foot of every point beyond the DC. So hold on, actually, this is an interesting thing. Now that we kind of have an explanation for the Psyker, what if we made that this was a Psyker that not even the Mind Flayers could understand, because their power actually comes from Limbo?
I had it like in my mind that like with the spell thought thing, like the higher the spell slot, the more real like the environment changes.
Yeah, Because this is
Like it actually, like it high enough, it legitimately just turns into like that chunk of environment.
like look at this, because this is the way Limbo works. For those of you who don't know this, we're gonna go ahead and just read. Limbo is a plane of pure chaos, a roiling soup of impermanent matter and energy. Stone melts into water that freezes into metal that turns into diamond that burns up into smoke that becomes snow, and on in an endless, unpredictable process of change. Fragments of more ordinary landscapes, bits of forest, meadow, ruined castles, and even burbling streams drift through the disorder. The whole plane is a nightmarish rot. Limbo has no gravity, so creatures visiting the plane float in place. A creature can move up to its walking speed in any direction by merely thinking on a desired direction of travel. Limbo conforms to the wills of the creatures inhabiting it. Very disciplined and powerful minds can create whole islands of their own invention within the plane, sometimes maintaining those places for years. A simple-minded creature such as a fish, though, might have less than a minute before the pocket of water surrounding it freezes, vanishes, or turns to glass. The Slotty living here, swim amid the chaos, creating nothing, whereas Gitzerai monks build entire monasteries with their minds. So, how about this idea? Now that we kind of are rolling with this, and I'm really liking this. So, Sorcerer, right? Sorcerer has an entire subclass called Wild Magic, which is about, like, harnessing the power of chaos. Whereas this Psyker ability is about putting order, assigning order to chaos, and actually altering the chaotic environment around them. So, there's more than just moving stuff. A creature can also use this action to make an intelligence check to alter a non-magical object that isn't being worn or carried. The same rules for distance apply. The DC is based on the size. 10 for tiny, 15 for small, 20 for medium, and 25 for larger. On success, the creature changes the object into another non-living form of the same size, such as a boulder into a ball of fire. And finally, the creature can use an action to make an intelligence check to stabilize a spherical area centered on the creature. The DC depends on the radius of the sphere. The base is 5 for 10 feet, and an additional 10 feet beyond the radius is increased by 5. On a successful check, the creature prevents the area from being altered by the plane for 24 hours, or until the creature uses this ability again. And with this in mind, we're gonna take these and assign this to the Psyker now. Because how cool of the idea is it that, like, this ability allows you to, with a first level spell slot, you can alter, you can move or alter the matter of a non-magical object that isn't being worn or carried using a first level spell slot. Second level increases the size. Third is for medium. Fourth is for larger. Fifth is for huge, and 6th level spells is for gargantuan things. Yeah, hold on, that's fucking nuts. Imagine this. So it's like, as a first, I'm gonna spend one of my first level spells to alter the matter of this of the chandelier hanging above them to be made entirely of acid. It falls into them, and then.
Oh, bruh.
This would have to be a really interesting one, because this is like actually using your psychic abilities to alter things. The ability to move stuff is also very important. So same thing. First level spell can affect tiny, second for small, 3 for medium, 4 for large, and 5 for huger, and 6 for a gargantuan. So just imagine like using a 6th level spell to just move a fucking gargantuan boulder and just toss it at someone.
Okay, Earthbender.
It's not even an earthbender, it's just mentally controlling it. That's this utilities thing. And so then, I don't know about stabilizing a spherical area, because at that point, this is kind of a thing that mainly matters in Limbo. Whereas these two are the things that could be defining this ability. So at third level, your spell slots can be channeled to alter the environment around you, essentially making you a half caster, because you're starting to now realize you can spend your spells. You can spend your spell slots on the environment around you, or you can spend your spell slots on actual spells.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, and once again, this is all just like, we are not putting numbers. We're just kind of saying an idea, and then we would put it to paper later. So it's like, the Psyker is generally refined by their psychic abilities, but how they're focusing their psychic abilities is based off the route they want to take. Physical enhancement, altering the environment, or just explosion based off of their own psychic energy. There we go. And that's kind of just an idea of how it is to make a class. We've made a class, we've defined it, but let's now talk Doomslayer. We've clearly gone over what it is to make this type of psychic energy class, but now how would we go about making Doomslayer? Nyx, as the person who suggested this idea, how would you define the Doomslayer if you were to put them into different subclasses?
Okay, so he's fast, he hits hard, but he doesn't. From the demons he fights, he doesn't take like a lot of hits. He can only take like 5 to 6 hits at most, and the highest difficulty.
All right, so what hit dice are we looking at then?
Let's say maybe the D10.
D10.
It's durable enough to endure demon hits.
I'm now curious why you aren't saying D12. Why is that?
I don't want to make him super overpowered.
Well, no. Remember this. We base it off of another class. Would you say the Doomslayer is more in line with what a barbarian is, or more in line with what a fighter is?
Given that he's a rip and tear barbarian.
Yep. And so this is that whole like, okay, now we understand his hit die type. The class is very much like, you know, I don't think Doomslayer is known for his intelligence and stuff. So we'll say strength and con. It's almost like another barbarian.
Yeah.
But now we have to kind of understand, how do we separate this? If the Doomslayer, if the barbarian has a rage, I don't think the Doomslayer gets angry per se, because he's just kind of always like that, right? Like, that's just more of a mental thing. It's not like his rage actually empowers him.
Yeah. The only time he gets like actual rage is when he gets a berserk power up and he beats demons with his fist.
Yeah, and so that's more of a power up. So what would you say would be this Doomslayer's thing? And by the way, don't be afraid to like go off the walls. This is whereas one is an anime, so the anime has its own logic. The Doom universe also has its own logic, based off of like stuff that comes out. So
What if he's a paladin?
what if he was like a paladin?
I mean, he is like, or was part of like a really big thing. Like, they're
Yeah,
like
he's part
pretty
of the
much just a bunch of
Sentinels.
paladins.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that. Like, I forget that they fucking updated the Doom lore
Yeah.
Yeah.
in Eternal, because that was Eternal, right? That was all explaining it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
well, in Doom 2016, they like got his sarcophagus or tomb because they dropped a temple on him to like seal him away.
yeah.
In Doom 2016, that's him waking up.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
And now it's like
they
more like a
found him.
reboot. They didn't like really go deep into the lore
Now-
other than like the codex.
now let me ask you
Yeah.
guys this: would you say the Doom guy is a subclass of these knights?
I think he has more of his own thing going on because you know, he was always ripping and tearing before like
Well,
he was introduced to Sentinels.
fair enough, but you know, this is like, let's take a look at the Sentinels overall, right? The Sentinels also have this, like, the Sentinels and him essentially are like built the same way, right? They're built the same
Yeah.
way, have the same martial prowess, but whereas like the Sentinels went down one path, the Doomslayer is by far the only one who went down his own path, right?
Oh yeah, they're more like melee based, while the Doomslayer is more range based with all his guns.
Can the Sentinels use guns or no? Because I think that
They
one.
have one gun, the ballista.
Okay, so hold on, that one dude who we
Yeah,
also
the ballista
seen.
and the super shotgun. Yeah.
What's it for? Do you remember the dude who in Eternal, like, it's like in one of the early levels, you see him, you take this weird spherical thing. He's
King Novik.
Yeah, he's like an ex-Sentinel like you, huh?
Yeah, he was like the leader of the Sentinels, but he got cast down in that war.
Okay, and he also, from what it seems like, he knows how to use guns.
Yeah, they use what was it, the double barrel shotgun, the super shotgun, and the ballistas.
Okay, so then let's do this. Doom class is a D10 because they have they have more options for range than our barbarian counterparts. Same thing with fighter, how they have a lot of options for range. But instead of calling this the Doomslayer class, this is the Sentinel class.
Yeah, I like that.
So let's take the Sentinel idea. And now what defines all of our Sentinels?
They're usually fighting against demons, and they're pretty hardy as well.
Yeah. Demons, hardy. Would you say there's any ability that they pull from? Something that that connects them all?
They have like a spectral animal that they call upon. Like for the Doomslayer, it's the wolf. For some others, it's something else. I think it's usually a wolf, a spectral wolf.
I'm trying to remember. What are the names of these things again? It's like the Doomslayer and these guys are Sentinels, right?
Yeah.
Doom Sentinels. All right.
Yeah, the Night Sentinels.
Okay. Night Sentinels were a warrior case who originally formed to serve the king to protect the wraiths. History. Were formed by the first king. And act as both their holy servants and bridle for their awesome power. So they're really powerful dudes. They're designed to be like this.
Yeah.
Continue their duties. They fought in the front lines. Night Sentinels took their campaign to the very shores of hell itself, even Titans failing. So, here's the god. And I'm like all pulling this up. Okay. So interestingly enough, it points out that when the time came to take the fight to the enemy, the Night Sentinels took their campaign to the very shores of hell itself. So these are people who are against anything that is infernal, and well, in D&D abyssal probably.
Yeah.
So it's really in line with Paladin. We need to find a way that doesn't make this a Paladin, and I think that's based off of, whereas Paladins have oaths, the Night Sentinels probably have more. What's one for? How would you differentiate this from a Paladin if you can't use the term oath, and you can't?
So what if instead of making him a half-caster, he has no magic, but is more of like a ranged barbarian?
Well, that's definitely what this is going to be implying. I would like to. Here's where I'm going to point this out. Okay. Going against the grain and really trying to pull from this source. What if the unique thing overall is taking from the environment and taking from enemies? And what I mean by that is, if I kill an enemy, I would love to actually see health potions drop.
Oh yeah, with the ice bomb and the flamethrower.
You get what I'm saying? Like the idea of how about this? The Sentinel overall, when they here we go. Okay. The Sentinel has the ability to pull unique buffs from slain enemies. These buffs, unlike in Doom where they only are good for the quick grabbing of it, these buffs are interchangeable, and the buffs that you have access to are based off of which Sentinel path you took.
Yeah, that's good.
So, now let's do this. Yeah. Now let's do this. The Sentinels overall have access to a most basic thing, and this is their biggest compensation. Upon killing an enemy, the Sentinel can gain the regeneration buff. Which is, let's say, hold on, let me also be sure about this, because I know we're stepping on another class's toes with this. I think it's fighter champion that does this.
I don't think anything heals from kills.
No, here we go. At the start of each of your turns, you regain hit points equal to 5 plus your Constitution modifier. Okay, so this is an 18th level ability, and it's pretty strong. So instead of 5 plus your Con modifier, let's just make it that all Sentinels. There's a few ways we could put this at.
Well, what if instead of using the 18th level ability, you just have it scale with whatever the challenge rating of the monster is?
That's kind of what I'm thinking, but also put this in retrospect. In a battle against one creature, you're never gonna heal. So we need this type of idea of when we kill a creature, we gain a new buff. And I want to say that at least maybe 2 or 3 buffs are access to all the Sentinels. So, here. Let's run this. So there's, one of the buffs that you can have running is the regeneration buff. Where every round, you regain a number of hit points equal to your proficiency bonus. This is a very key part to point out, by the way, because that means that you can multi-class with this So you can become a Sentinel Barbarian, and you can still keep the regeneration buff because it scales with your proficiency bonus, not with the class. So every round I'm regenerating 2 hit points. That 2 hit points maybe not look like a lot on paper, but 3 rounds in, you've regenerated 6 hit points, and that 6 hit points could be the thing that determined whether or not you were dead or alive. And on top of this, this is a buff that applies to you from the last creature you killed. So in order to swap out this buff, you need to kill another creature in another encounter, and only then can you change the buff that you have currently active. So it's very much by making it that, it really points out that this is really a combat-centric class that gets all of its changes and options based off of encounters. The other one is part of why it's going to be very important to point this out. The other option... I'm trying to think about this. Alright, here we go. The other buff is called ammunition reloading. Oh, sorry. Ammunition return. Every time you kill a creature, you get a number of ammunition for the weapon in use equal to the creature's CR, minimum 1.
Well, what if you just did it as Scavenger as a name?
Scavenger is a good one. There we go. So Scavenger. And so what do you guys think of this? Every time you kill a creature, you get a number of ammunition for the weapon you have equipped. For the current weapon you have equipped, equal to the creature's CR with a minimum of 1. Meaning that the goblins that have 7 hit points, if it takes you a single shot to kill that goblin, then you get that 1 ammunition you just spent on them back. But if it takes you 2 shots to kill a goblin, you're only going to get 1 ammunition back.
So that would be like a crit build. Okay.
Alright, I'm back.
Welcome back. I was just explaining that the first buff would be regeneration. So every time you kill a creature, you can change one of these 2 buffs that you currently have active. The first buff being regeneration, which is when you kill a creature, every round in combat, you regenerate a number of hit points equal to your proficiency bonus. So that means that it's like, okay, at first it's only 2 hit points every round, but that can eventually stack up to the point where like this person almost never like really needs to heal. And to explain this, that's kind of another thing. How do you balance this when it comes to like, I'm just gonna sit around and just do nothing for like an hour, and I technically didn't need to use my hit dice. I just needed to sit for an hour, and every 6 seconds I got 2 hit points back. So how do we balance that?
You have to be actively attacking.
Well, no, because then it's too much like your rage bonus of like, oh, if you didn't get hit or attack, your rage drops. So what if it says this effect only applies to combat?
Then any encounter that like, what about traps and stuff?
You wouldn't regenerate it, period. So if you hit a booby trap, well, sorry, you're gonna have to use a health potion.
Yeah, even in Doom, they have like traps where you put platform through. You don't regenerate from that stuff.
I'm trying to think. I would say the other way that we can do this, but we would have to change the number. While the regeneration buff is active, as a bonus action, you can roll 1 hit die from your hit die pool without your Constitution modifier.
See.
So it's like, okay, you're consuming hit dice from your hit pool, but the difference between using it in combat versus using it out of combat is that you don't get your Constitution modifier, versus when you take a short rest, you do get your Constitution modifier.
Yeah, it seems good.
So it's like, what? Oh no, I took 5 points of damage, but luckily enough I have the regeneration perk. Let me try to regen. I got 7 hit points back. Okay, that's good. Or, oh fuck, I got 1 hit point back. This sucks. But regardless, you got a hit point back.
Yeah.
and because it's pulling from your hit dice pool, it really is like it's like almost getting the benefits of a short rest without properly taking one, at the cost of the fact that you won't have them later for your short rest. But it's like, you know, that's kind of the give and take. Or better yet, here, you can regenerate as a bonus action. You can roll 1d10. You can roll 1d10 and regain that many hit points back. You can only use this ability equal to your proficiency bonus. So that way, not only is it still giving the person the ability to keep using their hit dice for short rest, now they have a limited number of use, and they only regain these on long rest.
So once per day, essentially.
So well, technically your proficiency bonus starts out at 2, so that means twice per day you can regenerate hit points. So it's a nice way of balancing it out, and then even as like a level 20 character, you're still only to regenerate 6 times a day, though by the time you're level 20, there's probably going to be class features that would buff upon your regeneration.
Yeah.
And on top of this, let's also now use that dice type for the other. What was it? The other one is Scavenger. You can also use this ability a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. But what this one does is, you can upon looking at the grounds of your enemies, you can find ammunition for your currently equipped weapon. The number of ammunition you find or make from the parts found is equal to, if I say D10, that would mean that the person could farm stuff, but it implies that you like killed something. And you can also only use this a number of times a day, so that would mean that you only get like, if you ended up rolling like 2 in total for the day, then that's all you got today. Whereas like on the other hand, rolling 20 at the end of the day. So I would say maybe not a D10, but a D6 would also be a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, you could always do it just based on number of kills per that you got that day.
It could. Now, what does number of kills implies? Does that mean last hit, or does that mean kills you participated in?
Last hit.
That'd be really hard to get them.
Yeah, because that would mean that if your allies aren't playing to help you out with that ability, you're never going to get ammunition back except for the one-offs that you do.
Well, that's the point. It's meant to be a little hard. You're not supposed to just be OP. And it would also make it so that you could get at higher level, you could be like, okay, well, at let's say 15th level, it's now kills you participate in. You know,
okay.
Something. You know what I mean?
Well, actually, how about this then? If it's a kill you get the last hit on, you roll a d6. If it's only a kill you participated in, you get half of whatever you rolled on the d6.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
There we go. All right. So the Sentinels have these type of abilities that allow them to roll either get regeneration, which is rolling a d10, but you can only use this twice a day, or you can find ammunition from battles you've participated in, and if you got the last hit, then that's chances for more ammunition, and if you just participated, you get half of the ammunition you could have possibly found. But same thing, you can only use this ability as many times as your proficiency bonuses, making this that you want to scale up with this class, but it also gives it room to multi-class because we're scaling it with proficiency bonus. Imagine a ranger who took the Sentinel, and so it's like, boom, boom, oh shit, I need to go find ammunition. Luckily enough, I took the Sentinel and I got like the most basic ability, and since I got the last hit because of my ranger stuff, I get a d6 of ammunition at the end of the fight per, that I can get back.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
So this has good multi-classing capabilities. Okay, so if that's kind of its huge definer, the buffs that it gets, then what does each of the 3 subclasses get outside of here is your unique buff that you can pull from this subclass? Like let's get into the meat of what we're trying to get through. We obviously want to talk about a Doomslayer class. So a Doomslayer subclass. What would be the buff that they would get? That same thing, you can only get this, you can get it equal to your proficiency bonus. So you can get this twice a day. Like a mini rage, or more like a brutal kill.
Brutal kill, I think.
Because that's Doomslayer's like that's one of his defining things, right? Getting in and just ripping and tearing.
Yeah, the glory kill.
The glory
So
kill.
what if you had it as it's an attack that dashes forward and has a brutal crit effect, but it's only equal to proficiency bonus.
Okay, so check this out then. I like that idea. So once again, these are all implying the ideas that these are buffs that you can change out, right? And you can only change out these buffs whenever you get kills, or whenever you, I guess, participate in a kill. I might want to change that to like you can change out which buff you have active on a long rest, because that might make it if there's no combat happening, you wanted and you ended up picking the wrong buff. The Doomslayer one would be you have your critical I guess thing is 19 through 20, and to add into the brutal critical, you get 1 extra damage die on the critical. However, though, you can only use this ability as many times as your proficiency bonus. So it's a really powerful buff that makes it so like not only did I crit, my great side that normally does 4d6s, I'm now doing 6d6s. However, though, it's because I can only use this 2 times a day at levels 1 through 3. Technically, actually no, from levels 1 through 4. Then 3 times a day from levels 5 through levels 5. Then eventually to the point where you can use this ability 6 times a day.
Yeah, that seems good.
Also, another thing, it would have to be like in an errata. This ability does not stack with the Barbarian Brutal Critical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And already, because it says from 19 through 20, that does mean that if you do go down the Champion Fighter thing, the Champion Fighter specifically states that improved critical is only from 19 through 20. So this doesn't improve upon that. It's still 19 or 20.
No matter what, yeah.
Yeah. Alright. So then that would be like, I guess, the Doomslayer's thing. The ability to do this kind of brutal critical. Now, what are the other Sentinels? Because as far as we know from Doom, there's only Doomslayer, Sentinels. How would you guys imagine the Sentinels and then maybe another off branch of these Sentinels working? What would be their unique
The
buff?
Marauders.
The Marauders?
Yeah, they're
Okay.
corrupted sentinels.
Okay, perfect. So there's Doomslayer, Marauders, and I guess we need a name to call these Sentinels. I guess Night Sentinels, right?
Yeah.
So Doom Sentinel, Night Sentinel, and Marauder Sentinel, or not even Path. What's a way of describing this?
What do you
I
mean?
mean, you could do paths, but I think that's a little
Right.
overdone.
It's a little overdone. So I guess what would be the unique name for this? I don't. I was about to say Watcher, and then wait a minute. Wouldn't that make the Night Sentinels the Night Watchers? And it's like, no, we can't do that now. What's a really good one here? Doom is
What if you did Honor of the...
Honor
So
of the
you're-
Night, Honor of
Yeah.
Honor of the Marauder, and Honor of the Doom.
Honor of the Slayer, you could do.
Oh, that's fucking good. Okay.
Yeah.
So, when you reach this subclass, you choose which honor to take. And I would say this is also one of those subclasses that gets unlocked at level 2. Unlike the level 3 Paladin, who like then decides what their oath is.
Yeah.
So, at level 2, you get your subclass, and this is where you start getting these like features. So if we already have regeneration and ammunition reloads as our basic 2, was it Honor of the Slayer gets improved critical? What does Honor of the Knight get? Appearance, technology.
I think the generic one should get the ammo, to be honest.
What about like
But they
protecting
usually
from
use
good
like
or
melee stuff,
evil?
not really like a, ranged.
I'm sorry, Home. What was that, babe?
But then why wouldn't you have this Honor of the Slayer be
Oh, there it is.
the ammo? The generic be
it's already made.
critical.
Well, because
and
because regardless, all of these all of these sentinels are all proficient in the same weaponry type. So
Yeah.
like they all know how to use guns and they all know how to do this. And it's so implied that like while the Doomslayer can be a melee class, they also the Path of the Slayer also should have access to the guns because guns are another defining thing for the Doomslayer, right? Super shotgun and all that. So I would say, what if the Knight, if the Slayer, if the Honor of the Slayer was focused on the pure raw damage, what if Honor of the Knight was more focused on implying like an AC buff to themselves? So like we are the Sentinels of the Night. We will not go down.
So no, wouldn't they just get regeneration then?
Not
They're gonna
exactly.
go down.
Imagine this idea of as a bonus action for the next minute you have an AC boost of plus
Your proficiency.
equal to your
Just do-
proficiency equal to
You
your
could just
proficiency
do
buffs.
+2 because then that's essentially just a shield,
Right.
you know?
This ability can also work while you have a shield, so that's also a good thing to know. So it's like, okay, I took honor of the Knight, so I have a shield, my plate armor, I'm at 20 AC, and by using this ability, I'm now at 22 AC, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of like a good way of looking at this. So these guys are more focused on I don't need the regeneration because I'm not gonna get hit. I have two. The knight is vigilant and will never be and you can never land a hit on us type of thing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, and then you can totally trying to think as well. I'm also now trying to think. Would this class have access to fighting styles?
Yeah, that seemed good.
So then we would have to, if fighting style is a thing, we would have to move the subclass to level 3 because fighting styles usually take up the level 2 slot because fighting styles are strong. Now imagine a Honor of the Knight who takes the defense fighting style. As a bonus action, they have not only the +2 but the +1 from the defense fighting style. So it's like we will not we will not fall, for we are the Knight type of thing.
Yeah.
So this is like if the Doom once again going off of if Doomslayer is brutal critical,
Yeah.
the Knight is impenetrable defense. Okay, then we kind of now we have this, and then I wouldn't be surprised if the Doomslayer's whole thing is improve upon their own damage, the Honor of the Knight would not only eventually be able to improve upon their own defense, but also apply the defense to their allies being Sentinels.
Yeah.
You just get a group of Night Sentinels. Let's go, boys!
you could name that Phalanx too.
Mm-hmm.
Phalanx.
And you can and it's like there would also be a limit to how many other people can be receiving this buff as well. Like I think the limit would always be 2, because that's a really strong ability.
Oh yeah.
Like no matter what, the limit is 2 other people. What's another good way of this? Then from here, as a side note, this is also a good way of technically giving the haste AC buff, or like the this is a good way of applying Shield of Faith without making this class a spellcasting class in any way, you know?
Yeah.
And now we go to Marauder. So if Doomslayer is brutal damage, and the Knight is about impenetrable defense, I'd imagine the Honor of the Corrupted. I'm trying to think. Would you think it'd be DPS instead of damage per swing rather than overall damage? Protect.
I don't know. It's a bit like hard to think right now since the way the Marauder works in the game is that he has a shield that he puts up that like blocks all your attacks. and he has like an opening where you have to shoot them and like stun him for a bit.
Hold on, isn't the Marauder the one that always counters you if you don't hit the right spot, the right
Yes.
time? Then there we go. If
Harry.
parry. So Doomslayer is about brutal hits. The Knight is about never being able to hit us. The Marauder is our opportunistic swings. Was it? As a reaction, and this would be your buff, right? This would be your whole, like, I can do this a number of times a day equal to my proficiency bonus. As a reaction, you can, was it? You can add a, I want to say, you can add a D6 or a D8 to your AC for the attack. If this roll causes the attack to miss, you can then make an opportunity attack in that same reaction.
Oh man, that's
However,
sounds
though,
good.
once again, you can only use this ability as many times as your proficiency bonus. So you want to time your reactions. It also uses your reaction, which means that if you get hit twice, let's say the first attack you did, you managed to do it successfully and you got an opportunity attack. But this is a multi-attack creature, so its second and third and maybe even fourth attacks all land on you. You can't get the parry. You can't get the opportunity attack on those other hits.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that sounds good.
Now it's balanced.
Yeah.
And now the question is just what dice type? Should it be a D6 or a D8, or should it be something that improves throughout your levels?
I think something that should improve throughout your levels, maybe.
Yeah, I think scaling is probably better.
Okay. So then, yeah, right there. Trying to think as well. So
He
now,
also summons a spectral wolf.
okay, then that can kind of be like their ultimate ability, right? Eventually.
Yeah.
But check that out. We now have properly made a Sentinel class that has 3 subclasses, one of which being an entire Doomslayer class. All of them have this video game aspect of I can apply a buff to myself because that's the way Sentinel technology is.
Yeah.
That's a cool way of describing this. It's Sentinel technology allows us to alter which type of buff we have on us at a time. So like at the end of every long rest, you have to like open up something, or you have to like commune with whatever your Sentinel thing is, and you're selecting which buff you would like for the day. It's very video gamey for D&D, but 5e has always been okay with that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, this
now
is
that we've done magic in a subclass and full class, how would you go about making like a portable ballista?
a
Or
portable
hand
ballista.
ballista?
Okay, so then this is a pretty. So we've described how it is to make monsters. We've described how it is to make spells, like you said, and we've also described how it is to make overall classes, and even technically subclasses, because we made them for that. But now, how do we go about items itself? It's same thing. We're trying to compare it to an item before. So you're saying hand ballista, right?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Because I was thinking, like, the overall idea is that I'm gonna have a longbow that has range and or damage of like a 50 cal sniper.
Right. Oh, pretty obvious. There are in D&D there are items. There are futuristic weapons. Let's see. I'm trying to find this right here. Table rules, running the game. Character options, sentient magic items. Actually, you know what? Hold on, let me. Firearms, compendium sources. All right, here we go. So in the Dungeon Master's Guide, there are firearm examples. So right here, modern items: automatic pistols, revolvers, hunting rifles, automatic rifles, and shotguns. And it shows you that their damage scaling is pretty much just like 2 of whatever damage die. So pistols are 2d6s, revolvers and automatic rifles and shotguns are 2d8s, and hunting rifles are 2d10s.
So you'd have the 50 cal 2d12s.
Probably. It also would
I mean-
probably suck ass if they're too close, right?
Oh
like,
yeah.
Like you can't fire.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like in general, you can't fire like. I think with any ranged weaponry, you always have disadvantage if the target's in melee because it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
technically a pistol, like while it is designed for more up close stuff, it's not a good thing to be taking in melee combat.
Yeah, because he can always like disarm you.
Yeah. So, from there, we take a comparison to it, and we take a price. Now, the issue with this is that there are no exact costs examples of this. So this is one of those like it really is up to the DM how to go about it. You could also make it that as part of the because if this is for the Sentinel, right?
Well, no, I was just saying in general because I
Right.
was thinking of it more of like, those like very like 150, 200-pound longbow,
Yeah.
like those big motherfuckers. That's what I'm expecting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, then there you go. You would it's same thing. Find it is what you're relating it to. Find a way to rename, scale it, and make it unique. Because if you just take a 2d12 gun, it automatically becomes unique because none of these modern items actually use 2d12s. In fact,
Yeah.
none of the futuristic weapons use d12s. A laser pistol is 3d6, an antimatter rifle is 6d8, and a laser rifle is 3d8s. They have their own unique ammunition, but that's just the same thing. Compare and adjust.
Yeah.
As a side note, just because it came to my mind, imagine for the Doomslayer, its first level, it has 2 first level abilities. One of which is the buff it currently has active, and the other one is its quote unquote special weapon. The special weapon has certain properties. Has certain properties as stated below in this table, and when you take subclasses, not only do you get a unique buff, you also get a unique property applied to your weapon. That'd be
Like what?
like if you had to pick one weapon that defined the Doomslayer, what would it be?
Super shotgun.
There you go. So it's like it gets a burst. If the target is within 5 feet, you no longer have disadvantage in the attack roll. And this weapon has it has 1 extra damage die when you just in general. So instead of like 2d8s, it's like 3d8s, but only in like 5 feet of range, right?
Yeah.
And obviously you need to take this subclass in order to remove that disadvantage with this weapon only. It's very important that it states this weapon only is the one that does not have disadvantage in melee.
Yeah.
And then of course you only have as much ammunition for this. When you take this class, you're automatically given like 20 of the ammunition type for this gun, and from then on, it's entirely based off of you to pick that buff to keep getting more ammunition. So if you just never pick the ammunition recharge buff, you're never gonna get ammunition for that weapon if you run out of bullets eventually.
But
Which
couldn't you, as a character, craft?
I don't think the Doomslayer, because once again, if we're
Yeah, he does.
does he?
Yeah, he modifies his own armor and stuff.
Okay.
That's how like the armor changed from 2016 to Eternal. He modified it. You see it in like the hub.
Mm-hmm. All right. This is, God, Doom is so crazy.
Yeah.
Holy Snickers, Batman. Light anti-tank weapon. Oh my god. But, so then what? Would you say that the, how about instead of just modified weapon or special weapon, it's just modified equipment? The Doomslayer, regardless of whatever armor type they have, has like an interface on their armor that applies to how they select their buffs, right? This interface always shows up no matter what. So it's like on leather armor, it like pops up on their sleeve, and it makes their armor look unique and allows them to select the buffs, and that's probably how we describe the buff overall. Whereas like the modified weapon can be chosen to be applied to your range or melee weapons depending on how you want to go about with this build. So this is a very versatile class, but it's all because it's like it lacks any magic. It's all about like modifying its own like physical characteristics with guns, melee weapons, and armor.
Yeah, that seems good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Let me see what else is there. I know there's collection. Okay, we've made spells. We've made monsters. Magic items. That's always a hard spot to hit, because magic items are just the strength of the magic item is based off its rarity. Magic items are typically made for a certain purpose, because whereas like melee weapons are always about, whereas when you're making a weapon, it's always because you need something that does damage. When you're making a spell, it also goes along the same idea of a magic item, but spells can be a little bit more broad. And monsters also same thing. You're making a monster for a specific purpose, whether or not it's for a number of things. Magic items, because you have to understand if they need attunement. You have to make it. Well, actually, here I think I have a few right here. Homebrew creations. Oh yeah, this is like an uncommon wondrous item. This item was created in Deep Shishalish name and is blessed with the light as the god. They are seen in works of art, usually in the shape of a dolphin. This amulet constantly sheds a dim turquoise light of 10 feet, completely covering the object with something opaque blocks the light. The amulet has 2 charges that get refilled at the dawn of every day. By expending 1 charge, you may increase the light to be 20 feet bright and an additional 20 feet dim. This is very obvious why it's uncommon, and it doesn't need attunement because it's just super utility.
Yeah.
Just camp with the feet for firearms. Quick draw when an enemy is 5 feet near you or 10 feet away from you. Next on, you can't fire with no disadvantage. That'd be a good feat. I've never made it. I never made a feat. But then you also go like as a side note to like the Delfruit. As much as I put the Delfruit as very rare, I think I need to change them to legendary, because that makes more sense with what type of power you're getting from them, as well as like the negative you're taking from it. The Ravenspine bow harp. Let's see. Bow harp images. I decided to make that because there are not enough bow-based magic items. There really aren't.
I can't even think of a single like bow like magic item.
Like here. Game rules, magic items. This is a weapon type.
It doesn't even pop up? No way. Bruh. Oh, and a short bow. Right there.
Huh?
Short bow. Is that good?
Oh, that's right. Short bow,
Long
bow. We need to pull up our crossbows then as well. All right. And
Let's see how many magic items.
there you go. Here's all your ranged magic items. Ignoring the fact that we don't care about weapons 1, 2, and 3, and any weapon that says weapon of is also not counted, because those are like, I can take any weapon and give this buff. I can take any weapon and give it this buff. Same thing, any. These are not unique buffs. Hellfire weapon wouldn't count. Corpse Slayer wouldn't count. So the only two unique items in this game are the Oath Bow and the Bow of Nylea, which is an artifact. So that's like super unique.
Oh yeah, that's from the magic set though. So it's technically not even a weapon. It's technically an artifact from a god of
Right,
Theros.
but that makes sense, right? So it is an artifact, meaning there's a one of a kind, but its statistic is based off of the short bow when people are wondering how does this work. And if it's a short bow, then that means only classes that are proficient with short bows can properly equip this.
Yeah.
Let's see. Bow of the Wild. This divine weapon includes a short bow and a quiver with 4 arrows, each tied to one of the 4 seasons. You gain a +3 bonus to attack and damage rolls made with this bow, and suffer no disadvantage when attacking at the weapon's long range. Additionally, it scores a crit on 19s or 20s. So this is like, this is a perfect example of a weapon that is an artifact. It's a one of a kind. So whichever player gets this is like this is like this is the most powerful magic item bow in the game outside of like just making one up. But but this goes on to my point that just there's only two unique fucking bows in the game, and on top of this, it's only for the longbow and shortbow. There's nothing for our crossbows, and there's no like, what if I want to make this a longbow variant? You can't. It's a shortbow variant. What if I want to make this a shortbow variant? Well, you can't. So it's like, this is
that's kind of why I wanted
Go
to
ahead
make
and
the
go
50 cal as a bow.
temperature and stick.
yeah. So just imagine now the 50 cal kind of just sounds like another weapon rather than a magic item though. Because
Yeah, it's a modern firearm.
yeah,
I would just call it as a great bow instead of, you know what I mean?
which
'Cause
that
it's
funny
still
enough.
technically a bow and arrow.
Oh yeah, Dark Souls, like Dark Souls. Right?
Here's an interesting thing as well. Hold on, I'm gonna pull up a source. No one's playing Dragon Heist, so this isn't really like a spoiler. Monsters and NPCs.
Okay.
There's an NPC in Waterdeep Dragon Heist that uses a great bow, actually.
Really?
Yeah, trying to find him. He's about to pop up. Here he is. Zaraj the Hunter. Oversized longbow.
Yeah. It's
How much damage
exactly
does it
what I
do?
was thinking of.
It does 2d6s plus 4.
Nice.
So it does as much
yeah.
damage as a greatsword, by the way.
Yeah.
Zaraj the Hunter is also a fucking, he's an artificer. That's not an artificer, hold on. Charisma. So he's some sort of charisma-based spellcasting class. He has the following paladin spells. Okay, here it is.
Oh, he's a paladin?
Yeah. God, he's so cool. I love his design so much. But, like, notice this. Even when they made Zaraj, if I go to game rules, equipment, there is no oversized longbow. So this is an example of they have this in the world, but they don't give us it as an option. So anyone who plays like these type of bow classes is like, well, how can I make my bow stronger? What if I wanted to wield like the Dark Soul type of bows? Well, then we gotta homebrew it. Boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom, boom. And you know, then it kind of just falls under the whole like, okay, now how do we make a magic item variant of that? Then from there, it's like you got to compare it to the other magic items. But in this case,
Oh.
you can't compare it to too many other magic items because there's not really a lot for this. So, what we have to do is
So homebrewing is just there to fill in the gaps that D&D doesn't provide.
that's another good way of looking at it. Yeah. So then we have to like go to like all weapons, and then we have to like let's sort it by rarity. Let's find uncommon, because these are probably the easiest magic items to give to your low level players. Hue is a battle axe, +1 to attack and damage. As a +1 battle axe that deals maximum damage when the wielder hits a plant or creature or an object made of wood. The axe creator was a dwarfsmith who feuded with the dryads of a forest. It's like, look at this. It's a unique battle axe that fucking has its own lore, has its own thing. It's a Lost Mine of Fendelver item, and it's applied to a weapon. But they don't have anything like this for ranged weapons.
Oh.
There is no uncommon. Try a fish command. So you find a need, fill a need. I love robots, and that's a good quote because it's what we need. We have a need for a great longbow. So we're going to fill that need by homebrewing it. Let's see. All right. There's just so much. Let's see what else is there when it comes to like creations. Creating a background. Custom backgrounds are probably the easiest thing you can make. It's literally what is the background that for some reason D&D can't fill? Because that's one thing that D&D has a lot of. Look at
Yeah, they have a ton of backgrounds.
list of
also.
backgrounds. If there for some reason there's no background on this list that gives you what you want or gives you the proficiencies that you want, because that's what you're getting. Skill proficiencies. Some backgrounds give tool proficiencies. Some backgrounds give languages. And some backgrounds give equipment. But regardless, here are the 4 categories that a background is supposed to give you. And then every background gives you one unique feature. This is not supposed to be a game-breaking feature. It's supposed to be a thing that's more for flavor than anything.
Yeah.
And so it's like sorry, what's up?
like a tool of the trade or like dice or
It,
something. You know?
exactly. Maybe even like because I don't think what's it for? Do they have a gambler background?
No, they
I
have
think
a.
so.
Oh,
It's
there
not
it is.
a
Gambler.
It's
Yeah.
really
Yeah, gambler background. Deception,
okay, so I'm
insight,
used to
game-
PHB. In PHB, they don't have gambler. They have something
Charlatan.
else that says charlatan. Yeah,
Yeah, so the gambler
And
is straight
that's
up this.
con man. So.
Here we go. Gambler. Feature, never tell me the odds. Odds are probably your bread and butter. During downtime activities that involve games of chance or figuring odds on the best plan, you can get a solid sense of which choice is likely the best one and which opportunities seem too good to be true at the DM's discretion.
So Han Solo.
Yeah, perfect example of a feature that is not game breaking. It is up to the DM's discretion, and here's the four categories: skill, tool, languages, and equipment. You know, backgrounds also determine a character's starting goal, so and it's usually between 5, 10, or 15. I think the only other chance I've seen one. Let me see what the noble gives.
I think it's 20.
25 actually.
25.
Damn.
So here we go. Noble gives that. I think Urchin even has like a little bit it gets.
They have secrets to the city, which is you
10.
just know your way around cities.
Oh, I was more referring to like the amount of gold that they start off with.
Oh, I think it's like 5 or 10.
It's actually 10.
Oh,
And I'm
I was
trying
like,
to think-
I know it's not much.
Trying to think what other one doesn't start off with a lot. I think a hermit only starts at 5. Okay, so 5
No,
through.
wouldn't an acolyte also?
Let's see. Acolyte
only-
15.
Oh, really? Wow.
Well, you spent your life as when it explains that you spent your life in service to a temple of a specific god or pantheon of gods, you know, it probably would be like donations, things that you maybe your fellow temple goers helped you along your journey with this, so they gave you some starting money, or this is money that you just saved from working there.
Okay.
And so it kind of makes sense. On a scale of 5 through 25, how rich is your background?
Yeah.
With like increments of 5, by the way. So it'd be 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So that right there is a 5 point. From like 1 to 5 stars, how rich is your background?
Ah.
And then from there, you know, you do that. Every background always gives 2. Count it. 2 skill proficiencies. If it's a background that gives a language, is it 1 or 2 languages? If the background gives you 1 language, then it also gives you 1 tool proficiency. If your background gives you 2 tool proficiencies, it gives you no languages. And if a background gives you 2 languages, it means no tool proficiencies. So your proficiencies / language is up to 2 options. Same thing with your skill proficiencies of up to 2 options. And then your equipment. Your equipment should always include some sort of clothes, depending on how wealthy you are, how much money you have, and then other like unique items that are tied to your background. Nothing that actually is like, I get a backpack with all this stuff in it. No, that's what your class gives you.
Yeah.
These are like
They'll give you like a trinket or like an eye in a glass or
Exactly.
something flavorful.
even like a holy symbol is probably the most expensive I can see it giving you, and that makes sense though because it's an acolyte.
Yeah.
I think like an urchin also gets like a pet. Let's see, hold on, a small pet mouse.
Fucking weird.
A map of the city you grew up in is a small trinket that is totally tied to your background. A small knife is the example of this quote-unquote getting a dagger, but it's probably a dagger that's going to break easily.
Yeah.
A set of common clothes, so it's always a set of clothing that determines your wealth. Common clothes is the cheapest it gets. 10 gold pieces. On a scale of 1 to 5 stars, how rich is your character, and multiply the number of stars by 5. And then just some other trinkets that go along with your background that don't affect gameplay too much. They affect your background more than they do anything else. But let's see. Collections. So we got our backgrounds. Race is kind of another one that's also like with the way D&D has now changed up the way the races are, where there's no definitive ones. You could totally make it that like, okay, it's either 2 to 1 stat and 1 to another, or 1 to 3 different stats. That's like the way D&D seems to be going with their races now, where they're adjusting it so that way it can be of those options. Does your race have dark vision? What's your race's size? There's a lot that goes into a race. that can help you understand this. If we go to collection, no, let's browse races. I'm curious what the most popular race is. Let's see. Views. Alright. And so the most viewed race is Minotaur.
Minotaur.
It's 2 strength con. Okay, so how long ago was this made?
Yeah, this was before Minotaur's official race, right?
Probably. I would not be surprised if this is when this was made. Let's see something that we don't see. So Centaur, Vampire, Shatterkai, Werewolf, Dampier. Yeah. Mousefolk. Your dexterity increases by 2. You gain proficiency in the perception. Mousefolk weapon training. Rapiers, short swords, short bow, and hand axe. Haha, everything's short. Nimble dodge. When attacked by an attack of opportunity, you may use your reaction to impose a disadvantage. And always your languages. Then there's Softpaw or Meadow Guard Mousefolk. The only thing that this one is not stating is the size of the Mousefolk.
I assume they'd be small.
I'd assume so too, but that's kind of a thing that this person might have missed, despite it actually like having so many views. Also, this is the most pointed up thing. There's a lot of like people who like as far as like Reddit thing, this is the most upvoted thing here. The Mousefolk. Abomination is another one. Eldritch Transformation, The Beast Within, Ravenous Hunger. Abomination names. Oh, this is fucking hilarious. Unholy Sight, Apex Predator, Eldritch Blood, Unnatural Movement. Oh, these are great.
Yeah.
Shape Changer. But abominations have many differentiating traits. Okay, strength, dexterity, and intelligence increased by 1. Or this would be the example of either improve 1 by 2 and another 1 by 1, or improve 3 by 1. Age, alignment, size, medium. Your speed is 30 feet. You're a shape changer. And then I guess the only thing that isn't stated is which of these is so let's see. Your sight goes beyond normal. So you would roll like a D4 or select from these. So you pick one to be your sight, 1 to be your sight, 1 to be your trait, 1 to be about your blood, and the last one to be about your movement. What is it, Sneaky? All right. Race. I as much as I would love to go over race, it's just there's so much that varies this. But the main things you definitely need is your size, your speed, any vision you have, languages that it comes with, and stat bonuses. And the stat bonus is pretty easy. It's a plus 2 to 1, plus 1 to another, or plus 3 or plus 1 to 3. And then the only other one that would be left is creating a feat, which this is along the lines of there's just so many feats that are currently already out in D&D that there's no proper way to make like the definitive feat guide, because there's feats that can improve on either one stat point, or there's feats that don't, and they give you a kind of a ground breaking buff. It varies so much, but I guess if I were to give an advice about feats, don't create a feat that takes away from a class's feature. If you make a feat that gives a character access to rage, you have completely ruined the barbarian class, because that is the barbarian's bread and butter. You cannot take a class defining trait and make it a feat just because you didn't want to multi-class into barbarian. However, though, an example of something that doesn't take away from it is that there's a feat that gives you access to one of the Battle Master's maneuvers. Now, why does that one get the pass? Because the Battle Master, when you take levels into it, you get access to 4 superiority die, which start as D8s, and you learn 3 maneuvers. The feat gives you 1 superiority die, which is a D6, and only access to 1 maneuver. It is a third of the power that actually taking this subclass does. And it's very important to note that like you're either making something that doesn't undermine what a class is already doing by copying one of their features, or you're taking one of the features and making an extremely minor version of that. Some features can be miniaturized to become a feat. Some features are just way too minimalistic already to become a feat at all, like rage. I don't think there's a way to make rage any more minimalistic. It gives you resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, slashing, and you have advantage on strength checks and strength saves while getting a damage boost. There's no real way to kind of like pick one and apply it as a feat, because that's already as basic as it gets. Whereas like the Battle Master is an entire subclass thing. You could take this because of the fact that it has a lot of versatility and remove how many options you have with it and make it a feat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess a good rule of thumb would create something that every class could take.
That's a good one. Create something that every class could take without completely taking away the point of multi-classing into another. Because that's the main thing. If you create something that completely is like, oh, I didn't need to multi-class into a barbarian, I could just take this feat, then that's not a feat's purpose. A feat's purpose is not supposed to be a whole feature. It's supposed to be something that's as equivalent as getting +2 to certain ability scores.
Yeah, the one that I was actually thinking about when you were talking about this was like Iron Stomach. You might have, resistance against eating something that may not be fresh. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Also, holy crap, Maniacal! I didn't even hear you. I didn't even know you were here yet. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Have you been enjoying listening to the rambling of homebrew creation?
Yes, I've just been
absorbing,
quietly absorbing.
Yes. Well, I mean, here. We can end the stream here. We can end in about 18 minutes. But I want to hear from you guys. What is it? Something we didn't state today that you would want to hear more about when it comes to homebrew creation? Maybe a question you guys have.
How would homebrewing armor work?
Homebrewing armor?
I have babies with it.
Hold on. I'm gonna ask you to rephrase. I'm gonna ask you to ask that again after I go into depth. What do you mean by homebrewing armor? Like magic item armor, or like just making whole new armor?
Magic item armor, I think.
Same thing. Going back to the magic item, let's take a look at different examples. Magic item. Let's remove this. Armor tag. Remove the weapon tag. And now let's set it to uncommon, because like this is an example of what we can give like a 1st through 4th level character, right?
Yeah.
Adamantine armor. Oh, look at this. They're now immune to criticals. Which means that the critical is just a normal hit, by the way. That doesn't mean like you don't take any damage from a critical. But there's not really a lot of uncommon armor options, just because. And on top of this, there's not really a real unique armor option. If you take a look at this, all of this is any heavy armor, just any armor, any medium or heavy but not hide, any shield, any only scale mail. This is the only one that's actually unique, and it applies to. It can be only applied to scale mail armor. So I guess picture an armor that you would want, and tell me a little bit more about it.
Power armor?
Power armor? Oh. What you mean? Oh, let me remove
If it's Nyx, I'm guessing he means
what you mean
Fallout
this?
power.
No, you mean this powered armor? Literally an item that's already in the game that's legendary. You get a +1 bonus to AC. Your strength score automatically becomes 18. You have advantage on death saving throws. The armor has further capabilities. You can use a bonus action to do one of the following benefits: emit a force field, activate boosters to get a flying speed, fire arm-mounted laser, translate any writing you can see in any non-magical language, fill the armor with air, allowing you to breathe normally, or gain dark vision out to 60 feet, and powered armor options. You might also wish to modify with these features: automatic defenses, battle of wills, stasis, and alternative power. So it is, if what you find in D&D does not exist, make it exist. Find the need and fill it. And in order to know how to properly fill it, you want to compare it with any other armors of its rarity type.
I see.
Yeah. Hi, what was your question?
No comment.
No comment.
No comment.
Really?
No comment. Are you sure about that?
No comment.
No comment. He says. Sorry, God. If it was something along, because I vaguely heard it. I couldn't actually hear what you said. Hence
Yeah, I
why
didn't even hear Hive at all. What the hell?
Anyways, after the stream, I'm about to heat up this big ass calzone. This shit's huge. What the fuck?
But what about the rest of you? Do you guys have any questions as far as what we've gone over today?
Well, I think a question I'd have is because something you did in one of your homebrews was the sending stone. Was that a D&D item, or was that something you felt a need with?
That is so. The sending stone is technically a D&D item, but what I did was by making the sending stone a cell phone. Now that's homebrew. I like sending stones for what they do, but sending stones are pretty much. I don't remember what the term for it is, but it's the cans on strings or the cup on a strings. That's
Except it's magic tethers.
Yes, it's magic tethers. So that's what an actual sending stone is. Okay. And so when you realize that what I need it for is multi-communication, I'm going to make it a more expensive item that is bumped up in rarity. And since I'm giving it access to apps, its price goes up and so does its rarity.
So you can make the sending stone literally anything, like, say, shoulder pets.
Yes, technically. So
Banana food?
the more convenient an item is, the more its rarity goes up. The more powerful an item is, the higher its rarity. And obviously, the amount of magic or the amount of components put into this item, the higher its rarity because the higher its cost.
I mean, I'm thinking more of like, say it's like you want to make it let's say you want to make a shoulder pet function like a sending stone, but the only way to get it is you have to like earn its trust, and it's like an actual companion.
Well,
It's
actually,
not just a
here's an interesting thing then. Another way to also do this, let's say your magic item doesn't have any real comparisons, right? Like, I can't really compare this thing to anything else in the game. So how am I supposed to make this an item? This is where I'm going to recommend taking a look at spell scrolls. In D&D, we know that there are a plethora of spells that give you an answer to almost every question. When in doubt, magic, right? But magic does have its logics to it. The higher the level the spell, the higher its rarity. And if your item is doing something equivalent to a certain leveled spell, then you can figure out its rarity that way. So, if your item gives you the benefits of, let's say, like a 9th level spell, then it is a legendary item. If your item gives you the benefits of somewhere between a 6th through 8th level spell, it's a very rare item. 4th and 5th is rare. 2nd and 3rd is uncommon, and a cantrip or a 1st level buff on your item is a common thing. For example, the mending cantrip, there are mending clothes. Mending clothes are uncommon, or if not common, because they just repair themselves. But that kind of just goes into the whole, like, I would even go as far as to say this. I would bump up the rarity for this because 9th level granting items are really powerful, and I would say those would become artifacts because you're getting the added benefits of a spell plus an item it's tied to. So, if it's a 9th level spell, equivalent to what your magic item is giving you, then I would say it's an artifact. 6th through 8th is legendary. 4th and 5th is very rare. 2nd and 3rd is rare. And a 1st level or a cantrip on your magic item would make it an uncommon magic item. Because technically, if it was common enough, then that would mean everyone would be every general shop would be having it.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's another good way of kind of like getting a comparison. Figure out what it is, figure out what spell you're comparing it to, and fix it that way. Whoa, what do you think you're doing, Stinky? All right. I do think that we are. If there's no other questions, I think this is gonna be a perfect time to wrap it up. So, it is with that I'm gonna go ahead and call here. Thank you everyone so much for tuning on in. It's always a pleasure having you all watch and join us. And if you enjoyed today's content, please be sure to support the channel by following and subscribing on Twitch. For more stream notifications, possible chances to participate, and content polls, follow my Twitter and join the Undead Legion on Discord. And for any previous stream VODs such as today, check out the XenoLich YouTube channel. Be safe and have a good night.